banana.
Pick a problem. All right, guys. Thank you for having me out here again.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody all right?
So we're going to change that chair.
So I like to say on the white up here, the gain is nice and green compared to San Antonio. It's like the color change is dramatic. So, you know, I know everybody's in a drought and we're going to go through all that too. But I can tell you, coming from San Antonio to here, there's a definite change of green color. And so I've seen corn in the fields growing up, and so I might move this game one day. So we're going to talk about fruit trees. I'm going to go a little bit to the history of the Fanics. I saw some, who else been the Fanics? Okay, great, okay, cool. So I haven't been, by the way, that short, long time. So, but yeah, I've had the pleasure of learning on these Grandpa Fanic, and golly, for so many years. But anyway, I love my business. I love what I'm doing, or I wouldn't be here. And my passion is to help. I learned from Grandpa, so I'm going to tell you everything he taught me, and then we just keep on going, right? We just, and then you'll tell your people below you, and so forth. We just keep on going. All right, so fruit trees. Frank. Oh, Frank. There we go. I think I may have pushed the wrong button. Psych. All right. Push the right button, it goes forward.
Maybe.
There we go. Okay. All right. So Grandpa Fanic, Eddie Fanic, and son John Fanic were the two guys that started the business together. There has been many Fanics, but these two were the ones that hung on to the very end. They're kind of the highlight of where we learn our stuff from, and where Texas A&M has worked with them at that time the longest. They'd come in and ask Grandpa Fanic, you know, about stuff because they were still learning things. Grandpa was one of those guys where he would, if he brought a plant in.
One thing I didn't mention, that organization started back in 1939.
That's a long time. You know. And so Grandpa was one of those guys where he would buy a plant and put it in the ground, and he would grow it. And if he couldn't grow it, you couldn't have it. That's how he was. He also did some things in the weird business sense of the world. If you came in, if you didn't know Mr. Fanic, you came in and said, Mr. Fanic, I'm going to buy this tree. And he'd ask you, did you dig a hole? And you didn't know Mr. Fanic. So he said, no, I'm going to do it when I get home. He said, no, you go home first and dig a hole, then you buy my tree. You're not going to kill it. So those are things back then. We wouldn't do it nowadays. We'd probably piss everybody off. But those are things that, that's how how he was. I mean, that's his scruples. You know, every plant had to go home alive, and he's going to make sure you take care of it. So anyway, he founded in 1939. He moved to the east side of San Antonio. Why the east side of San Antonio? Grandpa was a farmer, not a rancher. So he knew all throughout the city of San Antonio, all the different soils, and he said this is where the farmers were at. And so he wanted 5-6 feet of dirt, not rock 3 inches below. Didn't like the sand, he didn't like all the other parts, he wanted black dirt because he was a farmer. So that's where he did. And he cleared all that land out. If you're in San Antonio, we're off at W. White Road. That was Loop 13 a billion years ago. That's like going to 1604 from San Antonio. So he was out in the country at that time, not anymore, but in the country. But anyway, so start seeing at night, clear the property. Grandpa was raised not too far this way in Flatonia. We're kind of more Czech than we are anything else. We got a little bit of German. We're square heads. We got all kinds of stuff in our system. And so I'm a mixed breed. So
Czech is good.
Czech is good. So and so he was out there. That's where they start off from. And then Grandpa's dad worked at Sunset Funeral Home on Austin Highway. He was a gardener there. So gardening has always been in our bloodstream from way, way back. So there it is. Check us out. All right. So where did Grandpa maybe get some of his stuff from, or his dad? Well, you go to the painted churches, and out east of here, and we always wondered that maybe he was looking up into the skies, roofs, saw stuff early on. Maybe who knows what started him in the business. But when all that came to play, this is the offspring in the gardening world. This is our our initial FANUC setup. I did cut off my brother, not on purpose. On the right of me is my brother, but he didn't quite squid.
Nice way.
Good leg. So anyway, that was the original ones, all there. That was our main force. And then we have a few more. We have in-laws and outlaws, and so there's a few of us there now. So
And which one are you?
I'm the one in the red shirt.
Orange.
Orange.
Thank you.
Maybe I just red face, but no.
That wasn't taken last year.
No, it wasn't Nick last year, no. But above this range here.
How come you don't have a pit hat on like those other two do?
You know, it's funny. I thought it'd be cool wearing a hat, I guess, at that time. It was just, you know, but back then, pit helmets were a big thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wore a pit. You were a true gardener, and I remember as a kid, I call them old timers. I'm one of them now. All the old timers would come in there, and they had these pit helmets. You know, you just saw them. There was another gentleman. It was just a big thing. Now they were made out of canvas. Like I said, the root gardeners had canvas ones, and then the other one had the plastic ones. But you know, the whole thing was they were out there. They were trying to keep their heads from being burnt up. But it was just kind of a cool thing. It reminded me of kind of like going to Africa or something. It's kind of weird.
Stole that from the mailman.
Yeah. Well, Mama had them too. That's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
I used to wear them.
So we have 4 generations on that property now. So one of my kids is there. My brother has 2 kids. So we're hoping we plan to seed, right? And we'll see if they root in and see if they want to continue on. So far, all 3 want to stick. So time will tell. Most things I don't want to be the generation to kill up the nursery. So when I retire, it's out of my hands and I can go to sleep. But you know, we hope this will go into the 5th generation and so forth. But now we're 86 years old, so we have 86 years and has been in one spot there. Okay, so Grandpa FANUC, with no formal education, was able to bring on different products. I mean, lots of them. We have a list of some patented at times, some trademark names. Grandpa was one of those guys where he said people simply like to walk with their head up high. He said, no, you look toward the ground. Everything's on the ground. He would find plants on the ground, and so when he find things, he would introduce them. And see if they would grow again. If they did, then he would, you know. And Grandpa, back then, we had these little, there we go, these little metal tags made. Grandpa was so proud of his plants that the metal tags cost 22 cents. He charged a royalty of 25 cents. So he was never in it for the money. You know, nowadays, a person would try to buy a tag for 3 cents and royalty for $1.
Yes.
But that's not how he was. He just went to his plants, brought out there and pushed, you know, and he was just proud. And so this is just a sampling of some of the stuff there. He had, I think it was 11 plants. They had these tags like this. Some things are still on the market, some aren't, unfortunately. But so what we're going to learn today is we're going to do fruit trees, right? We're going to talk about fruit trees, the American culture, bare root stuff, which is starting to become a little bit on the outside world. There'll be more container stuff in the future, but we're going to show it off anyway because this may be a history lesson one day on the bare root stuff. Then doing chilling hours and pest control, you know, all the good stuff. You know, if you want to eat it, so the bugs do. So Victory Gardens, right? Every time we went through, you know, these bad times like COVID and so forth, I go back to think about the Victory Garden. What was the thinking back then when everybody had to raise a garden because, you know, you didn't have HEB on the corner everywhere. You know, you had to raise food, canned food, preserve food. You know, sometimes the world gets kind of squirrely. You wonder where we're going to be at. You know, maybe we should all be thinking about freeze drying, whatever kind of thing, right? So raising gardening plants, a little bit for survival, a little bit because I don't knock HEB. I love HEB. I'm glad there's one in Livernia. But I know when I'm buying fruit there, I'm not getting the full nutrient count. It looks pretty, but it's blah. So, raise a garden. It can be a vegetable garden, it can be fruit trees, activity, outside, be outside, do stuff. Don't pay $30 a month to go to Gold's Gym and sweat in air conditioning. Work outdoors. It's good for you. Grandpa lived to be 93 years old before he died, and he didn't have all kinds of arthritic problems. And if he did, back then he had Observing Jr. and he was purple and smelled like all kinds of stuff. But he moved. You know, he said, move so you can break the rust free. And he said it's plenty of time to lay around later. So, all right. So gardening, right? So, bare root. So, shipping is a big deal on bare root fruit trees. Preparing, storing, displaying, right? That's one of my, we have to make it look pretty for you guys. And then, of course, the selling, we have to make sure we say the right plant for the right conditions. Where you at in town, where you at in the hill country. So, bare root fruit trees, the best way to ship a bare root fruit tree is in a bag system. And that's really the only time I'm going to see a fruit tree in a bag system, because bags are sort of bad in the fence line, they hot, cold, that kind of thing. So that's what a bare root fruit tree looks like when it gets to me, more or less. We do some pruning on there. We try to get it shaped up so it'll fit inside of a 5-gallon container. When I used to sell bare root fruit trees in the sand pit, we did sand because I wouldn't have to trim off so much root to fit in a little bag, right? So we did sand pits, and we're going to show that picture in a few minutes. That process was done so I could leave as much root on there as possible so you could get home. Because if you have a portion of a certain size tree, a certain size root, we'll make sure you get as much root as possible. Once it goes to the can, I've got to shave it some more to make it fit into its column. All right, so preparing plants, right? So we get the fruit trees, and then the bare root, we got to pack them. So now we're going to drench them, right? So they go underwater for an hour, sometimes a day, with some kind of root starter. There's all kinds of root starters on the market. There's going to be chemical ones, organic ones. We're finding out that the organic ones we think work way, way better than the chemical ones. So, organic side, you've got one called Kangaroos, there's Biotin Starter Plus, there's Carl Pumix, of all things, this would be good for Seguin because you want Seguin to be pecan country. There is a type of pecan that makes a enzyme that follows the tree and the thing that's going to die, so it makes the tree want to grow roots. And that's an old-timey product way back in the 50s. And it's not really sold much anymore because there's so many other new things out there, but it's weird how some of the things that come from nature come back and help us out, and we didn't realize it. Then you've got another organic like Fertilome and Super Thrive, which Super Thrive is good, we'll talk about it in a few minutes. So, just as humans need probiotics to digest food, so does plant life, right? The ground is alive. I talk about sometimes the movie Avatar, right? You watch the movie Avatar, was it a love movie or was it about planet Earth? Well, it's probably both, right? So, but what it did tell you was that the ground is alive, right? It's biolife. You see mushrooms on the ground and people want to kick them off and say, I hate how to get rid of them. I say, no, glory be to Jesus, whatever, that you have mushrooms because it means your ground is alive. You're not sterile on the ground. So you have biolife. You want mushrooms. That means that these things are decaying. There's this breakdown. So, a line. Think about a line, so probiotics, right? So probiotics. So, Fox Farm itself, a company, makes a product called Kangaroos. Kangaroos is a full bacterial spectrum and a mycorrhizal fungi spectrum. What does mycorrhizal fungi do? A pine seedling highlighted, that's a fungal mat from the roots growing. There's a symbiotic relationship between mycorrhizal fungi, just like Avatar movie, right? Plant a tree, remember the tree? All that's growing together. And so when you can plant seedlings, you could have a 2-inch tall plant, you don't realize how much root is down below there. And we see mostly the big roots, right? We're not seeing the fine network of hairs, the fine follicles that are going to the ground. All that are receptacles. They're hands. They bring they're bringing food in, right? If I go to all-you-eat restaurant and you give me 7 hands, I'm going to pull all the food towards me. So if I have more hands, I can bring more stuff in. I grow taller, faster, thicker, bigger, all that stuff. So when we put a plant in the ground, our first job, the first 3 weeks are important of getting a root system established. Because as we well know, like we're in April now, right? It's already been a few hot days. We're in drought. May's coming up. June's coming up. We're not set by June, we're in trouble. You're trying to water a plant. So a plant, you plant a tree in June that's 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall, but 12 by 2 inch root ball, right? It's out of proportion. So even though you're watering every day, so my tree is wilting, I water every day. Yeah, well, but it can't pull enough moisture up. That tree is being beaten up. It's wicking out more. We sweat. Plants transpire moisture. It's transpiring faster than the plant can pull the water up. But it's got to take that water from the bottom with a hydraulic pump. And hydraulic means it needs to pull water in, it's got to push it to the top of that tree, whether it's 6 feet, 10 feet, and then you got 101 degrees beating on top of that same time, right? So that's why early planting, fall planting, early spring planting, try to get as much done as you can before the hot summertime. For these, that's the exact reason right there.
So, let's say we have an established tree, like 2 years old. Can we drench it
You
with
sure
that?
can. Yep.
Kangaroo roots?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, 2 years old means that if this gentleman's a tree or shrub, we don't put it around him because we're not 3 or 4 feet now.
Okay.
Because we don't want to feed this, we want to feed these. So come out far, it's called the drip line. So in the ground, you have kangaroo roots, which is still the best. There's also another product called Biotone Starter Plus. So these guys have also a microbial fungi on there. They also have probiotics in there, not as many, but now they have a fertilizer solution in the ground too. So if you want to add fertilizer at the time you're planting, and it's a chicken alfalfa based fertilizer, and get green sand and all this stuff inside the ground at the same time planting, then that's another cool pick to have too. And so you add that one to it, and same thing, we've inoculated the ground, we've fed it safely, no chemical burn, and so we have a charge going for the plant right off the bat. So I like this one more better, more good, for established trees. Bare root, I like kangaroos better. But if you have a root system already growing, I like that one. That's good too. They're both good.
What's the application of the Biotone? Is it every 2 weeks, once a month?
Once a month is a rough number. Now, in summer heat, you can probably go for 3 weeks if you want to. Organic are very low salt index. So the burn ratio is very hard. So you put some down and you go, I can't remember if it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks, throw them down anyway. You're not going to burn. And organics run at a rough ratio on average of 3 to 4% nitrogen. So we're not 20%, we're not 36% or low. So if you double up, you're 8%, and you're still low at salt index. So you can not feed enough, but it's hard to feed too much on these. Now the old 13, 13, 13, yes, now we throw it on the ground there, and we call, if you don't, like, the easy way to understand fertilizers is to cut your finger, grab some 13, 13, 13, and watch your finger burn. Cut your finger and grab some organic fertilizer, and it won't burn, or very low burn. So that tells you how much salt is in a bag of fertilizer. And salt kills life. So you have too much salt, Dead Sea Scrolls, right? Salt, salt, salt. We oversalt the ground, we also kill the wildlife. Years and years ago, when Medina, they were doing apple trees, and there's a disease called cotton rot. The apples get more than the other trees do. And it was overwhelming the trees, or killing them, and they were trying to figure out what's going on. And so they were trying to put sulfur, thinking that it is a sort of fungal issue, but it's also a bacterial issue. And they sulfured and sulfured and sulfured. Well, okay, so if you have an issue with you and you take a antibiotic, sulfurish, right? You're wiping things off, right? So not only did they were over chemical fertilizing the ground to kill the wildlife off, now they threw heavy sulfur. Now they killed all the other fungal mats out. They neutralized everything good in the ground, which made the bacteria run faster. It didn't help any of that all. So, but that's old school. That's what we thought to do. It's like when COVID came around, right? First few weeks or months, you hope you didn't get COVID because you were the guinea pig and all this stuff going on. That was too. So we learned. So in reality, what they should have done, but we didn't have these tools, and we have to thank the marijuana people for this, because the marijuana people were one of the first ones that really introduced microbial fungi, because they don't fool around. So our talk at town is good enough for marijuana, good enough for you.
All right.
So anyway, so if we would have had this back in the apple tree, we could have saved them back then as a test run. So apple trees got a bad rep because of that issue. So they've always been known as they're not going to survive here, they're not going to do this here. They can be done here, but your soil will be the big deal. You've got to get your soil in prime shape and get it ready for the trees. So this low power product, this might be gone probably on the next time because we just don't sell the products anymore. But that's, for history lessons, that's what it was right there. And you can't see the smallness rise, but that was the pecan enzyme. That was what made the trees grow. It's a good product. It just kind of got washed behind because this microbial, the fungi world is much better now than what this was.
So do you pour that into the hole before you plant?
Either before or after. I always go after.
After?
Yeah. Yeah. Now some people will wet the ground first and then put the trees in. I always just, if the ground's bone dry, I might water it, fill it one day before. And so that way, when you put your liquid solution, it doesn't draw away from it, being absorbed out to the side. But, and it's also a good way to test. So when you do that also, it's also a percolation test, right? So if you're filling your ground up with water, and you go back the next day and it's still full of water, that's a bad sign. You bend that hole right off the bat. Then you got to raise bed gardens. Or you move over 20 feet. And it surprised me that I can try digging a hole where he's at, dig a hole where she's at, and there's a giant percolation difference. The clay runs in veins. And so it could be thick there, light over here. So the problem is you need to be like a gopher and pop holes everywhere across the yard. But you may have to. If you don't have the right spot, that tree will. And why is that bad? Because trees have to breathe oxygen on the ground. And if they hold water, you drown. They literally drown. So that's why percolation is such a big deal. Plants love water, but they don't want to sit in water. It's got to go right. It's got to go past them within a certain range, certain time. All right, so like that. Okay. So the non-organic deals for the bare root tree. So this one here is a glorified fertilizer. So this is I think it's like a 5% nitrogen fertilizer. It has indrobutyric acid, which if you're making cuttings, that's what's in there, right? So that sounds all great. The problem is the salt and the fertilizer again. So I'm making a cutting, I'm trying to root it in, but if you use too much, we root burn because you're making sensitive roots. And there's a high salt again. So now I can't use all this organic stuff because if I add salt to it, what am I doing? I'm wiping out all my good stuff. So I just wasted my $20 and I should have saved it. So you want to kind of pick one of each world and go. If you're going to be chemical, be chemical. If you're be organic. Don't overmix too much. Now, why is this important? Super Dry is a vitamin hormone pattern. So it adds hormones to the ground, adds vitamins to the ground. Okay, so why are vitamins important? There's a lot of B1 vitamins, right? When you feel sluggish, you find yourself taking a B1 pill, right? Much more energy. Well, that's the plant. If you look at plants and humans, plants and wildlife, plants in the living world, there's not a lot of difference. I mean, we eat different things, obviously, but we all need to have food. We need vitamins. We need help. We need water. So to make this plant survive summer, all these things add up. It's not one item or two, it's 2 or 3 items. But the food value, a good meal, take a multivitamin, you're golden. You've done all you can do for a plant to get a start at the beginning, other than moving to the compost. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. All right, so bare root trees. So storing plants. When they come in, we're going to do a lot of root pruning. That's the same trench method I was talking about. So we would go into white sand, dig them out. Why white sand? There's no nutrients. I didn't do it for that reason. I did it so that pecan stuff back in those days, and it's even better now when I'm doing stuff. When I would do a bare root fruit tree, put it in there, within 2 weeks I could have 3 inches of white roots on it. So if I use a heavy mixed soil and you buy the fruit tree and I pull it out, I would turn them all off, right? Yeah. So I get a soft mix so I don't tear as many roots off when I pull it out. And we like this method because if it was to rain or freeze or whatever, they're in the ground and they're insulated. My roots are insulated in the ground during that winter period. So when it's all done, bare root tree season used to look like that. Now there's some signs up there on here that say like fruit trees are not guaranteed because neither is human or neither is life in this planet. That was Trimbal's philosophy that when you bought a tree, which is why I told you don't think it was first, you bought a living tree. Grandpa did not like the word guaranteed because he did all he could do. He bought from the right growers. He bought the right stuff that you plant with. He would tell you about the soil. He spent a lot of time with you. And so if you ever kill a tree, he said you killed it. So anyway, but that's how it was back in the old days. That was kind of a cool time back then. All right, so bare root trees, after being trenched with the kangaroo product, in a short time, it will look like that. So that is your goldenrod. That is a 100% intake value. This reduces 50% intake. So if you have a lot of brown roots, yeah, that's good. But without the fingers, you need the fingertips. That's why activity of the plant, activity. But when a tree's not growing, people say my tree's not growing, but they mean you have no roots. Because if you have roots, it has to grow. It just has to. Again, it's hydraulics. If I've got a massive root ball and it's moving and mining the ground, right? It's mining, it's up taking nutrients and water. It's a pressurized system. It has to go, it's going up, it's gonna pop the bud, it's pressurized. So if your tree's not growing, it means your root system sucks and you're not feeding properly. So nursing roots, like I said, intake, right? Ooh, go back here one time. There we go. Just one picture close up. See that? Again, that golden rod. That's it. That's the one. That's the nursery root. That's the one that's taking all the nutrients in. And then what's weird under a microscope, there's a giant fuzzy line in there. It's like little hair follicles. So you got that pulling in, then you get the white cord roots.
Excuse me,
Yes.
are you saying cord roots?
A core.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, core,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, sorry. All right, so this is only one time that you ever see us put stuff in a bag. So the fruit is being pulled out of there, we're bagging them up. That's just so they don't dry out on the way home. That's the only reason why they're in a bag. And so if you did what Grandpa told you to do, you had the hose already dug. When you drove up, he wants you to run right to the hole, mix your stuff inside there, plant the tree, and you're done. No waiting around. Grandpa knows how people are. If you bring it home, you're gonna get sidetracked, and then your tree sits out there for a while. So everything's gonna be done right then. All right, so containers. We do container grown trees. You can grow fruit trees in containers. People all the time ask me, can I grow a fruit tree in a container? I said, look behind me, that's what I'm doing now. It's just what size. It's what shoe size do we go to from year to year, right? We all have a size 3 shoe, to size 5, size 7. And so, same thing with the roots. As the roots grow, become root bound, you want to do a container patio tree, we upgrade from 5 gallon to 7, or 7 to 10s, 10 to 15s, that kind of thing. So it's a matter of good soil and the right shoe size. Now, rock phosphate is another tool. It's not an either or, there's one more tool you can add to it. Rock phosphate, unlike superphosphate, which can burn, rock phosphate has a 2-year shelf life in the ground, and you can plant it and need to be planted in direct contact. It works best when it's actually, roots are coated with the product, not mixed in the ground. So don't mix it, put it right on top of the bottom of the hole, put the plant in there, stick the bone on top of it, and then add dirt, and you're done. Malcolm Beck from Burnville. Anybody know who Malcolm Beck is? Right there. From Burnville. So Malcolm Beck was the original old-time organic father in our industry. In Texas, he was the king of organic. And he would do like Grandpa would do. Grandpa, and then my dad would go with Malcolm Beck. Malcolm Beck and my grandpa had a good relationship. Anyway, he would take a bag, a rock phosphate, 40-pound bag, spin it wide open. He planted 12 tomato plants in his bag and watered them in and grew them this tall. Now they were leggy and they weren't full, but he showed how safe it was by putting them in direct contact. So, like Grandpa, he would do stuff, not just buy something or say, it's good for you. He would show and prove it. He'd say a slideshow to show these cool things like that. And so they were both kind of back then, it was all about experimenting. All right, so we're going to pick a compost that is high quality, right? We don't want junk. When I say junk, there are some products out there being sold that are made from pallets because they're trying to hold the cost down. So my question is, when you're buying a compost that's made from pallets, I won't mention any names like other companies, but what was on that pallet when they composted it? There you go. Yes. So not only find chemicals, we're finding splinters, and there's finding particles in there. My guy, we ran out of stuff one time during COVID. We had to buy some Miracle products, and my guys got splinters in their fingers. We never had splinters before using compost. That was weird. So we don't know if that was from the pallets or some other product, but if they're going to try to retail a bag for $8, you're going to get $8 worth of junk. And so compost is king. You're spending $30, $40, $50 for a tree. My grandpa said, you don't buy a $200,000 home and put a $10 slab on it. The slab is the most important thing of everything. Your foundation. So I'm picking on Fox Farm again because these guys, when they came into San Antonio about 12 years ago, they just really kind of rocked the world as far as all the good stuff. So Fox Farm is a good line. If you never bought any compost from them, you need to really look at these guys because again, if you're marijuana people, you should listen to them. They know. So is your ground hard and constipated, right? So you need fiber, right? So if you think again about the soil, so we're not gonna put benefiber in our ground, right? That's for us. So the thing about that, it says, if you go up north, why are they growing azaleas? Why are they growing magnolias? Why are they growing these beautiful, well, they had forests and forests and forests, and all that over thousands, millions of years have died, right? The forests are dying, and old tree limbs, and leaves, and leaves, and leaves, and leaves. So that's all humus and compost. It's soft dirt. It's not thick, muddy black dirt that we have here. So compost means fiber. There's your fiber. So that's your Metamucil benefiber for the ground, mixing compost. Now, our ground likes to eat compost. You can put compost in the ground, and that clay wants to swallow it up and destroy it. So it takes a 50-50 minimum mix to make it work in the ground. Sometimes more, depends on where you live at. And there's lots of good compost brands. Again, Fox Farm, what's cool about Fox Farm on this one is that it has a microbial fungi pack built into it, and some bacteria. This one is also very good, more economical. It's cotton burr compost. Now, when I mention cotton burr, the first question normally comes up is, yeah, it doesn't have the herbicide in it. Down south, yes, it would. This comes from up there by Temple and Waco, where they let the freeze knock out the leaves, not the chemicals knock the leaves off. So these are chemical-free cotton burr compost products. So you get all the good benefits of cotton burr. So you have more food than the cow manure bag does, and you've got a bulky material that will hold moisture and break the clay up, bite into it. You need something that bites into it, and that helps real good too. So again, it's one more tool. So now we need to find our food, right? So we're looking at our plant, and we're thinking about where should I buy my fertilizer from? What brand should I buy, right? Because picking a fertilizer is going to like a restaurant. So are you gonna buy McDonald's food for your tree?
Nope.
No, that's Miracle-Gro again, that's always gonna junk stuff, right? So we don't want low chemical stuff. Now, Lubies, okay. Lubies, we're getting into some world now. So Lubies quality would be about where I would put Espoma, Medina, Nature's Creation, a lot of brands like that. Okay, those guys are good. It's a great product. I love Lubies. I go to Lubies and Platter any day. There's nothing wrong with the food best. So that's good and more economical. If you go one more step up, then you go to Roof Steakhouse, because that's how it's done. Okay. So that means you went into Fox Farm. So this was Espoma, okay, just like their treat tone, they got all kinds of good stuff there. You go to the back of the bag, which later on you'll see there's a a fungus probiotic pack on there. When you go to Happy Frog, which is Fox Farm, I'm glad they didn't say Angry Toad or some other thing, Happy Frog. And so their product, you use half as much as you would this one because it's a higher quality, right? Everything about it is a higher rich nutrient. It's backbone. Alfalfa, which is great. I love alfalfa, that's why I put Lubies quality. This is backbone. Backbone makes some of the richest fertilizers for a plant. It makes them dark green, it's safe and healthy. It's just a cool product. And what's nice about it is if you've been in the nursery and bought backbone by itself, it's pretty expensive to buy a 4-pound tub and run you pretty costly there. So now that you're getting the backbone on there, which we get the compost there too. Again, on the side there's the full spectrum of all the other stuff in there, but you get all the other goodies too.
And
So
that's Lubies?
this is Roof Steakhouse. Lubies is
All right, got it. Which one's Lubies?
now,
Is that what it is?
there's an in-between world that, so let's say I have a busy life, which is me. I go home, we work 6 days in the nursery, sometimes, like that time there at 6 o'clock working again, the trick accumulate. And so I went home, I got some stuff done, I got to start watering, I got this to do, and I have a hard time with that every 3 to 4 weeks, remembering their fertilizer. So I substitute with a product called Osmocote. Now this has been around for longer than I have been. And it's a low salt index fertilizer, which means when you water, every day it traces off for the next 4 months the same amount tomorrow as it will the next day, as it will 3 weeks from now, as it will from 8 weeks from now. So it's not a gorge feeding like some fertilizer, where you feed the first 7 days is a huge amount of food and then it dies off. And when the plant gets heaving of too much fertilizer, not enough, it gets angry, right? I would too, when you start getting angry. So this is a steady plateau of fertilizer from end to end, it dies off.
Time release?
Time release, yep. And it's not, the oscilloscope is an osmosis type factor. So it's pressurizing and pushing food out slowly. If the water hits it, it pops a little bit more. It's a little bit more.
So that's in between Ruth Chris and Movies?
Yeah, probably more Luby's quality kind of thing, yes, yeah. And actually, a Ruth Steakhouse kind of a product, but we're gonna put it in Luby's because we have better stuff. But it's a substitute, so I do a lot of my own fruit trees. I'm a big Mary guy, and so all my plants need to be nitrogen fed because I need more time and more stuff. I use this on my tropical all my fruit trees. My vegetable garden gets this too, but along with the other fertilizer. So I'm maximizing, because you probably would like Ruth Steakhouse like I would most days, but I need to have a fish meal and a chicken meal once in a while too. So we can't get all back on all the time. They need some alfalfa, they need something else to balance their diet. That's where all it comes from. Okay, so what does nitrogen, or what does NPK mean, basically, okay? Nitrogen, phosphates, potash, right? So, what does it really mean to a plant, okay? So it sounds fancy words, but what does it mean to a plant? What it really means is, come on, little timer, up. Meat, vegetables, and potatoes. What? Okay, so think about that. So nitrogen is meat, phosphates are vegetables, potash is potatoes. So let's talk about that for a second. So meat equals protein, right? We talked about a while ago, protein. It's what makes the plant grow, protein. So if you're an athlete, right, it makes you grow fast and run and it helps with vital sun intake because nitrogen helps with green leaves. So big fat leaves, dark green leaves, like a solar panel, absorb more sunlight. Sunlight transfers into sugars and carbohydrates. The plant's happy, the whole world's going on, that kind of thing, right? So think of it like nitrogen, so pushing, like you'd want to maybe do like an athlete. So I want some to grow fast. I want my grass to grow fast. I want corn to grow fast. I want my vegetables to grow fast. More leaves, more leaves, more leaves. Nitrogen. Okay, nitrogen. So lots of growth. It's growth, growth, growth. Okay. So we move away from that now. Then we're going to go to vegetables. Okay. So that's the second number. So vegetables help in the root in the function of flowers and fruits and root systems too. Okay, it does all that. So, but with the fruits and flowers, you got to think about if you make more flowers on the plant, this happens. Okay. You have to have pollination. So the birds and the bees, the bees, the bees, the bees. So when you make flowers, you attract bees. Bees go back and forth, right? So there's your fruit. You have a fruit because you attract the bees in there, and the bees did stuff for you, and now you have a crop. So we have to have a good, strong flowering thing. But now we have to go to the potash, right? And we think, well, what is so important about potash, okay? Well, potash is what's going to help your plant for freeze resistance, endurance, strength, and we think about strength and plants being strong, like for winter control and so forth, but you're also going to kind of think about it being, come on, there we go, like the Marines. Okay, so you want a strong plant. So when you want a plant with girth, you want a bodybuilder plant like this, right? That's potash. Potash, without potash, you have string bean plants. So potash builds the muscles, the body parts. So that's what makes your plant stick. Your corn stalks without potash would grow tall, but wimpy. They would fall over. Grow tall and whoop. So potash will build the bodybuilder and make it thick. And again, disease resistance and so forth, freeze resistance, antifreeze for a plant. That's why in the fall fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers at least in the old days, that's why you'd find your numbers like, it could be like 5, 3, 10. Those numbers always were high back in the old days in the potash because it was built, you want some nitrogen stored in there for your grass for the next spring push out. The phosphates who cares, no, they don't need. But it was about the potash. Getting that grass that have antifreeze in there so we can get frost burnt for the next year. All right, so let's get to the good stuff. So peach trees, we have lots and lots and lots of peach trees out there. There's all kinds. One of my favorites for edible landscape is red barren peach. Make beautiful red flowers, double red flowers, and it has a double peach. So, I mean, what else could you want, really, right? This thing out there in the springtime pops like bluebonnets out there. When it pops, and it's just a gorgeous tree. And it works for all the areas of San Antonio and about 50 miles either direction. So it's got a wide range of versatility. Yes,
Is that a freestone or a plant?
that's a freestone, yes. 90% of my pieces are freestone. There are some semi-cleans, and there's one, I don't know, I have no true cleans, but I have two that are semi-cleans.
What does that mean?
Okay, so semi-clean, clean freestone, right? So that means when you buy a peach and you were to split it in half, means the seeds popped out. Semi-clean means when you peel it, one side will fall free from the seed, the other will have fiber stuck to the side of it. Cleans means you have fiber around the seed. Now sometimes most of your canned peaches are clean types because they make a better long-term canning peach. They're not quite as soft, not quite as juicy. They're good flavored, but they make a better canning product. But we want we want to pick off the tree and go.
Are they both natural or is one like modified?
No, they're all nature. Yeah, it's just yeah. And just so like in every nursery, other than I'll talk about one plant for a quick minute, but other than this one plant, there's not any nursery that I know that carries GMO plants. 2 reasons. We're not sure if you have them. Second is who can afford them. Because if you ever saw the price of a GMO plant, it's skyrocketed. We're talking 10 to 20 times the cost of another plant. So it's not affordability. Now when I say that, there's a plant that got brought into a lot of nurseries that is under patent thing called Firefly Petunia. Have y'all seen that? Heard about that? So Firefly Petunia has a cross in there from I think it's what's it now? Was it a mussel or? It's a fish product that has a luminance in it. So there's a glowing petunia. Okay.
Oh, yes, I read about that.
So the problem with the glowing petunia is, okay, we get into the argument of this thing is pollinated and that transfer to other things, right? There's always that argument with her. But the other thing is we also found out that unless you live in the country, the lights are off, it doesn't highlight it though. And they're $30 a piece.
Wow.
And it's $25 to $30 for a 4-inch pot. Rainbow Gardens brought some in, and thinking bad, I haven't dared to fight, I don't paying for the fight. And they're kind of going fast, everybody wants them. There's a big thing up there that's different, and it sounds cool. I just don't know, again, down the road, is there going to be, is there going to be a crossing somewhere, and you're going to have glowing corn or who knows? We might have more walkway path lights, you just walk up the gardens all day. So anyway, I don't know, there's a lot of argument between GMO. There's a GMO thought pattern if we're starving to death, we might need that down the road to make things better, but then we're messing with all kinds of stuff, so you gotta, that's an argument between, it's like politics stuff, so. Anyway, you fight that battle on your own. So the other kind of peach is really kind of cool, it's called a donut peach. So what's cool about a donut peach is that they're flat, they're round and flat. So up north they call them bagel peaches, right? They're like a bagel. But the reason I call them donut peaches here is because we're going to punch the center out to the seed because it's right there. It's easy to get hold of. Take your thumb, go right through it as a donut hole. So, and what's cool about them is they can stack. Knows the shape of the donut of the bagel. But when there we go. So see that open center right there? You just punch it through right there. But that's that cool. And then you stack them like this. Imagine stacking on a table. You go around the thing like this, and it wouldn't roll off.
Do they taste good?
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, there's a yellow and a white peach of it too. Yeah, and so that when it first came out, there was one called Saturn peach. Then Saturn went to Galaxy because Galaxy is bigger than Saturn. So they named them on this planetary scale for it because I guess they're looking like planets, I guess already. But anyway, so there's that big thing. So yeah, they haven't caught fire. We sell trees of it, but it's just a cool thing, not GMO. It's just a nature's pollination freak, whoever found out about it. But nature does its own thing. It does its own GMO stuff sometimes. It cross-pollinates like, again, I mentioned earlier that I'm a mixed breed, right? I mean, so people ask me what's in between hybridization versus GMO. Well, GMO means you were grew in a lab, right? If you grew me in a lab, they forced me to look like I am. I'm sorry about that. But if I was hybrid, which is what I am, think about it as if a German and a German were married, they say, German, right? But if a German person and an Italian person met, there's a hybrid. So there's your pollen, your hybridization. So now you're moving through, now you have more and more stuff. So that's where redheads come in from a different family, whatever that kind of thing. So that's all stuff, that's hybridization, that's that's nature, and we're not chemically doing it.
Where do those primarily grow?
These peaches?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the 12-hour range. These are in San Antonio. These ones I carry are San Antonio based. And we're going to go through a whole scale in a little bit, but basically, I have 3 sections of peach trees in my nursery. I have a coastal section, I have a San Antonio section, which normally means we're safe to about 40 miles for sure in the direction. And then we go out to the Cocoa peaches, which is where we sell some of those, because they're coming from Fredericksburg or way up there, Bandor North. Right. Then I have that range for them. I'll carry 3 varieties for them. But for most of us, because our range runs in a weird way in here, because it's by elevations and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, they grow here just fine.
What's that gray stuff on those peaches?
That is probably that's probably just peach fuzz. I think my peach was more highlighted, but it's just like this peach. It's not a mold or anything. Now, if they were to get a mold, that would start causing them to go. It would go white to brown, and you see a brown rotting one. And that does happen. And I got pictures of that coming up later. I'll show you too. So there is one peach though that I really like. I mean, I really like it, and it's a little bit hard to get hold lately because we have some grower issues. So we all have problems with it. I have a grower that sold out another grower, and then the other grower that before had a farm, and the father passed on. The son's gonna take it over. He didn't, and so I have a 3-year hiatus of having trouble getting this one peach I'm going to show you, but it's called Tropic Snow. Now, Tropic Snow peach is a low chill peach, so it's dangerous for us to have here since it's a 200 cold hour peach, and we want to be somewhere between, average between 4 and 550 where we are, best numbers are at. So, and I'll go through our things in a minute, but what's really cool about this peach, and I had a guy, a long story was I had a customer came in, and he ordered 5 of these every year for 3 years. And every time he bought one, he said, "Mark, you need to have one. I need one of my trees." And I said, "No, I don't want it. I don't think my head's too low chill, whatever." And so, "No, I had white peach before, blah, blah, blah." And anyway, on the 4th year, his wife had got disease and died, and he died right after her. And so, but his trees came in. And I was like, well, shoot, he's been trying to plant his trees forever, I guess I'll buy one and put it in the ground, and I should have done it 4 years ago. So the wife would say, "You want to go out and pick some peaches?" And I'll get 6 of them. And I bring back 3. And she'd say, "Well, where's, oh, I see them." So they're honey peach. They're extremely sugary. I mean, it is a sugar fix like you never had before. It is just, you can't make it back to the house. It's just a great peach.
Is it a
So,
Freestone
but
or Freestone?
Freestone, oh yeah. And I mean, it's juicy, it's sugary, it's a white peach, but the problem is, at a 10-year run, expect 5 crops, maybe 6. It's gonna get caught between things. And the last 4 years have been rough on them because we've had crazy winters, right? So it hasn't been the best last 4 years for it. But when it does make, it's golden. All right, so persimmon trees. Now, not only are they beautiful looking, right, they have the tree. If you ever saw a Japanese persimmon tree in the fall, and you're trying to want to buy a red oak, well, this thing will outdo a red oak. I mean, they have beautiful golden, orange, red leaves, pink. They're beautiful trees. And of course, the next best thing is they're making fruit too. But they're a great ornamental landscape flowering, again, edible landscape plant. So lots and lots of persimmons out there. Fuyu and the culture, the Asian culture, is the best seller for me for them because they love the crunchy ones. I grew up on soft ones, so they like one called Fuyu because when you bite into it, it's crunchy and it's not astringent when it's crunchy. Now, most of us are used to the soft ones where they turn into like jelly, right? So those have to be ripened until they're soft, otherwise they're astringent and you're going to pucker your mouth. So when they're on the tree, you're going to pick them when they're orange, but you wait too late, you can't pull them because you pull the skin off and get on the tree. You got to catch them when they're bright orange, push them out, get them on the ground, and then let them sit for windowsill 2-3 days, and then you'll see them they'll turn translucent looking, and all the fluids are coming inside there. This is more like that peach. then you're sitting there going, man, this is sweet, it's sugar, 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 sugar. So, I love these things, I think they're cool. And, you know, and if you're getting into like a diabetic world, you know, natural sugars are not quite as bad for you than, you know, other stuff like Coca-Cola. So you try to get your fix on sugar by other means. Okay, so pomegranates. So I'm gonna ask you if you have a single or a double in at your house, because one will make fruit, one won't. So there's a horror story, this is almost a horror story, that came out. So a single flower is the producing one. What was a scary thing was years and years ago, and I was not this short, but I mean this tall. And I went up to one of our nurseries, called Aldridge Nursery, and we were picking up some persimmon pomegranates from them. And he said, don't you just love those double flowers? I'm like, what? He said, I'm buying pretty ones. And thank God he didn't make a mistake on his word. But, you know, we buy these trees, right? I buy my trees too. Thank God I buy my trees now, mostly older ones, but I put small ones. But number one thing to watch for from our growers is when they're blooming, is I check for the single flower. Number one thing. Not that the double ones don't make fruit, but the fruit's not any good. It just don't have no flavor, it just doesn't taste, you don't know. So make sure if you can't see the yellow pollens, then you don't want it for ornamental effect, cut it down, because it's worthless. You'll never make fruit. So always watch that. So you buy it from me, somebody else, whatever. If they're fruiting, watch for the flowers. If it's single, you're great. It looks like it belongs in a Fiesta Flambeau boat with a beautiful carnation look, so you don't want that.
Let me ask you this. So I have several pomegranate trees, huge fruits, but they never seem to get ripe. What am I doing wrong? Do I have to put them in a sill or put them in a brown bag or?
No, and they're single flower?
Yeah.
Okay. So it could be hydration, could be more water. If they're not getting juicy, then they have too many on it. So on a pomegranate tree, it's best to have no more than 6 stalks. So then all that undergrowth in there, get rid of all that stuff. 6 stalks. Try to make 20 healthy ones, not 50 of those. If they're not ripening and they're turning spotty and going they're black inside or whatever, now that's a fungal issue.
Okay.
And fungal issues will cause a plant to dehydrate and not fully mature out. So we spray with fungicide to stop that. Normally fungal problems start somewhere late June through August in that range. July is a big culprit. And when it's so humid, right? It's just humid. And all that, and air breathe stops. We have no air breathe, and so we stagnate. And then we start seeing fungal problems going on. So it could be that too. After that, bring your fruit next time when it's looking sick. But if it's not ripe, I'm thinking either hydration or something else going on there. Because otherwise it should make it. Now, there's an old variety called Wonderful. And we thought it was wonderful. It's not so wonderful. It's okay. Should have called okay, it's not wonderful. So there's more variety that are better now. But we didn't have those back then. Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, we all had, like brown turkey fig, right? There's brown turkey fig was for everybody, but it's not the best fig anymore. It's actually one of the worst ones. But that was the same thing with the wonderful pomegranate. And so now you have all these Kandahars and one called Pecos and Souvenirs and a whole bunch of varieties that are just taken off that are way better. But I'm thinking you might have wonderful, and that may be some of the problem too. But our tree, same thing, it was like we had it, but it just wasn't so fantastic. It was just kind of like there.
2 questions, sir, before you go on.
Yep.
What's the best brand to have for this area?
I think that Souvenirs is good. I mean, I've got a lot of them. I mean, I haven't seen all the varieties, but I'm up to probably 9 varieties of pomegranates. And don't need 9. No. But they keep bringing them out. And so part of that's A&M's fault because they go down south every time, which by the way, he's going to do a drafting south for this weekend. We're going to live by drafting. It's a cool time to see meet Larry, learn how to draft, and probably I used to get hours of that too probably. So it's by an hour and a half class, and it's all under a big barn and all stuff. But it's cool to learn how grafting works. And the knowledge about that would be, he said, well, I didn't know about grafting. Okay, well, if you went to Aunt Sally's farm and it's going to be sold, and great grandma had a pear tree there, right, it's in the family, and we're going to bolt them down, you learn how to graph, you can save it and move to the next one. You can also be a mad scientist and make, like I have these 4 or 5 on fruit trees, you can multi-graph things too. So it's just cool to graph. You might go up north again somewhere and find a cool fruit. Nobody sells a tree, so you know how to wrap it up in that budwood, get it back home, graph, then you can bring that tree back home and work it. So it's really, so it's a cool class. We get 7,500 people show up to it. It's a big class, so you want to be there early too.
When's the class?
This Saturday.
Where?
Banff.
And then when do you pick the pomegranate? When's the best time to pick them?
Well, they're being more late summer, fall item, and they should turn nice and pretty pinkish orange tones, and they won't have a squeeze to them, but they'll have a glow to it, and that's about when you're ready.
We had them when we lived in California, and the birds always got there first, and they would peck them open, and it would just get ruined. So
Yeah. So Jerry Parsons said wouldn't want to get a fruit that a bird would want. So the good news is you must have a good variety because birds want it too. So that's going to cause you got to pick them at the right time. So if you pick too early, then you're HEB.
Right.
So then you have to do now bird netting cover or some kind of, whatever will scare them off. And then that's a big thing there too. So yeah, what do we do to get them out of there? That's, try to feed them somewhere else. If they're hurting for food, feed them somewhere else. Away from there.
It was a bird sanctuary where we lived,
Oh.
so there was no way. And they got 'em, and they were delicious, but anyway, I don't want to keep going on that, but it was awesome, so.
Yeah, no, and you have to do a physical wrap on each one or a whole tree.
Okay.
True cake, yes.
So 3 years ago, I bought a couple of pomegranates from the HEB, little plants. And so now, last year, one of them produced quite a bit, but the other one has no blooms on it. One blooms and the other has no bloom, and they're planted right in the same area.
Well, so there's 2 things. The easiest way to say this, one hasn't reached puberty yet.
Oh, okay.
Right. So the other thing is an ornamental variety, and it just had, or whatever, it just hasn't aged up. Now, does it look healthy and all that?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. It may not have woken up yet.
Well, this year, the one that produced last year, it has blooms on it. The other one I don't see.
And they're single, right? They have a single flower.
I need to go look at them and check.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, because they, not to knock the box store buying, but is that, they're not built for, they're buying whatever, they don't even care.
Oh, these were on clearance.
Yeah.
I bought them.
So they, no matter what, worst scenario is it's ornamental, which is a pretty plant. But yeah, check it out and see. And
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's not blooming other than it could be the variety not ready yet, or again, what I said earlier.
It's just
Yeah, it hasn't reached 18. So it's, but when it does, it's got to do something eventually. I don't know of any that have never bloomed before.
Okay.
So it's going to do it.
But how do you prevent a bird from tearing up your fruit? I put an owl out because somebody told me to put a fake owl out, and I never seen a blue jay attack an owl. And then,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Well, I'm going to say, it's funny, a bird with the brain the size of a BB can figure out if that's plastic or real.
yeah,
And we get lost in the store.
yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, the nature knows that now if you do an owl, you have to move it from here to here to here every other day.
Right.
Because they know, they know.
Do the little plastic snakes really work?
Sure. I don't know. Someone, yeah. BB guns and cages work the best. Okay. It's hard because they're just, so here's the other thing too. And this comes up all the time now with the deer population, right?
Yeah.
So the people are saying, they come to the nursery saying, I want to buy deer plants, and I just laugh and say, here's my list, use it to start farming. So, because they're starving, right? There's more deer than there were when Indians were in charge. And we're in a bad drought, they're starving to death. And so, I don't want to say it, I'm not making fun of people, but I'm saying, if we had bad times, and I told you I'd never have a trash can, I would be in the trash can eating food. So, the deer are coming close to the house, they're more braver, they're coming in because they're literally starving. And so they're going to eat everything, even the stuff they don't like, because I wouldn't like to eat what I'm doing in the trash can, but they're going to eat foods they're not used to eating. And so, and they're so mean that the landscapers are going to get that, they'll put a row of plants that's not supposed to bother them, they'll throw them out, pull them and throw them, like they don't want to have them. So, plenty something I want to eat. And so they're having a tantrum with that. but they're starving, so it's, again, it's, you know, it's a physical barrier or you got pop. It's one of the other, yeah. But yeah, it's getting crazy out there. So, you know, sometimes hot pepper sprays work, you know, you burn the, mouths with the hot pepper spray.
Yeah.
Or, you know, habanero sauce to make your own Reaper sauce, just don't spray back at you. And put stuff where they eat it, it's gonna burn them, that will stop them to that point.
Yeah.
You'll have a spicy treat though. All right, so pomegranates, my grandpa called them fruit in a suitcase. Because when we go back to the old days, back to Victory Gardens, every kid, my grandpa had old Mac clothing on, right, no big loose stuff. Back then, they would take pomegranates, suck on a few seeds, put the rest in their pocket, walk down the road a while, get some more from the pocket. So it was a carry along fruit. You wouldn't do it with a peach or a tomato, it'd be all squishy, right? But pomegranates, they would do that. They suck some out, put in the pocket, put on the road, eat some more. You know, I guess they ate lint too, I guess, but, but that's what they did. So pomegranates were a carry-along, long-term fruit. So that's not ripened, by the way, yet. So it's still on its way. But don't let this bother you. So when plants are grown natural in the sunlight and so forth, like me, I'm all beat up, right? So the inside is beautiful. I'm beautiful inside. So, but the outside, it's all scarred out. But so what makes, so when fruits don't go to the store beautiful, it's our fault. Because we'll buy a bag of apples, right? And you see 2 or 3 spots, oh no, this is bad, I'll go to the next bag. And so to make it beautiful, that's where all artificial stuff comes in.
Yeah.
So we are our own enemy on this one. So if we were buying through an organic farmer, you would see fruit like this, and that's nothing wrong with that fruit. The inside would still be perfect in there. We got an old tree called a peachcot that Jerry Parsons, an old ag guy, was trying to push on the market years ago because it grows some seed. So if I sold you a tree and I made a fruit crop, you can plant a forest with them along the fence line and have all the peachcots you want. The problem is when it ripens, it has bacterial spots on it. So it's got about 20 little spots on the outside, right? Now I eat skin and everything, doesn't bother me, but the whole fact that if I gave you a bucket of these, you'd go, oh God, look at that. You know? And so, but it's beautiful on the inside. When you feel the skin, it's an apricot peach flavored fruit. And it's very cool. But you can't make it on the marketplace because it's not beautiful. So.
Do pomegranates do well in containers?
Yeah, so you can grow really any fruit tree in a container. It will actually semi-dwarf them. So people ask about semi-dwarfs. So when you're root pruned, you're in a semi-dwarf method. The difference now is, so when you grow plants in a pot versus the ground, in the ground you have a bigger root system, it's more water tolerant. We've got water, we at the nursery, right, every day sometimes. Then the other problem is as you water, I call this the diarrhea effect, because you're putting your fertilizer on there, right? When you water, where's it go? Right out the bottom. Okay. And the ground, the fertilizer locks in around the plant. It's hard to push the fertilizer past the plant, but in a pot, you almost want to. At my house, when I was hanging baskets, I put another plant underneath it when I water. So that water would drip to this one. I was watering 2 plants at once, and the nutrients in that plant were dropping to the next one. And so, everything about drought management, that's another thing to think about. So if you have high-rise plants, along the edge of the house, whatever, and you see it just fall into the ground or concrete, put somebody else underneath there too. Water 2 at one time. Otherwise, it just goes right to the ground or on the sidewalk, and it's all gone. And that's a pint or a quart of water every day. You do that, and that's up. All right, so figs. Figs are neutral chill. I mean, I don't care if you're South Texas or you can't go too far north on some varieties if they can actually freeze. But as far as the chill requirement, it is a 0 chill requirement. So, so what you're buying now is the flavors. So it's kind of cool. And of course, the uses of them are fresh eating, drying, canning, that kind of thing, right? So, there's no way of eating inside there, right? But this is, so when I say closed die, city closed die, that's semi-closed die. What that means is that's how tight that bond is, okay? So what happens is, remember I mentioned brown turkey earlier? Brown turkey was the one that we didn't know any better, it's all we had, right? We had a penny down plant. Every time somebody got married, you got a free fig tree, back in the day, it was a brown turkey. So, but brown turkey which is great, it's a honey fig, which is great. The problem with it is that rot upon impact. So when you birth it, it's trying to rot already. So the weevils are coming in, and they're like vultures. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the dead carcass for you. The result, though, is that you have weevils, and so it is protein, by the way. But to have weevils in there, it means they're eating all that dead junk. But of course, they make more weevils, right? And more weevils, and then then they're everywhere. So there's nothing wrong with them. I don't need to really. But it's just that they're trying to do a good job for you. But the culprit is there's weevils in your fruit. So when you have varieties that are not sensitive to that, or you have closed eye, we eliminate weevil issue. There's a ton of varieties. I'll show you a few here in a minute. But there's just a barrage of fig. I'm now Baskin Robbins of fig trees. So, people like in California and other states are coming in there. You left things behind, right? When you came over here, I used to be there for some time for a little bit.
Almost 5 years.
Oh, you're okay. So there's plenty up there that we don't have here, right? So, and I buy from Dave Wilson Nursery, which is in California. So I have between individuals that are collectors, and I have nurseries. So you're coming in asking for a certain fruit, and I don't have it, so I need to look into it. And then the next person comes in from somewhere else, Colorado or whatever, and looking for their fruit, and then a lot of people moved in towards Austin area. Now Austin, they're all looking for this fruit, and so with the web, all the nurseries looking for this fruit. So anyway, so we started getting to. I used to have 8 varieties. I think I'm up to 35. And so I think it's half of them. Figs, yes.
Jeez.
So yeah, it's a lot, and there's still more out there people asking for. That's not even the whole thing. So I guess when I hit 61 best around whatever. But anyway, so they're and I admit they all have a different flavor. I fell in love with a couple of them that came from California myself, and this is one of them. So when they say beauty of skin deep, there we are. This one is called Panache or Tiger Fig. What's cool about it is it makes a variegated yellow-green skin on the fruit. The stalks have a, if you ever heard of Alphonse Carr bamboo, it has a striking bamboo look to it also. To it gets old. When it's new, it has a two-tone. When it gets gray wood, it's in there, but it's kind of hard to see. But I swear when I ate it, I take raspberries on this thing. So it has a cool flavor, sweet, and it has like a raspberry taste to me. I maybe just be thinking that, but I don't raspberry. But I get a different flavor out of it. There's a Peter's fig, which is one of the ones that we got from a collector in Austin. And I had to trade 3 fig trees to get to this one because he said it was so important. And I'm like, oh, what's worth all this, And we grew it, we tasted the fruit, and yeah, it is a beautiful tasting honey fig. I mean, it's a gorgeous fig. And now that's in production to my grower, and it's in full production. So there's a bunch of them. I have a blue giant fig, which is my grandpa when he developed. That's a large, I mean, it's this large, purple black fig. And it's a strong fig flavor. It's not oversweet, it's not this, it's just a strong fig flavor. You buy what you want. Mission fig is for canning, so you buy the ones, each one has a different processing in its long-term goal. But you have to just kind of go with, with what you think tastes, good, whatever. And I'll help you with that too. But see how isn't that pretty? So, again, edible landscape, right? So, at the house out there, I've got this beautiful fruit hanging on there. You can see the little stems, the little tube pointing in there. But anyway, but it's just a cool fruit, so people go by there, what the heck is this? I'm like, well, it is, it's
How
that.
tall do those get?
So most figs grow, I'll say 8 feet on average, but there are some that go much taller. I've seen some white pagodas get up there nearly, look at 20 feet, 15 plus feet. So, and then there's little ruby and little Miss Figgy, which are dwarfs. And I say dwarfs, they still get 4 to 6 feet roughly, but they're not, but they're not this. And so, say you want a patio garden and a container grown plant, well, Miss Figgy and Miss Ruby would be ideal because they're branchy, they're bushy, They make not giant figs, but they're nice figs. But they're a nice, landscape little plant on there.
Right.
So,
Can't you top them off like?
you can, but if you look, so this is last year's growth coming out, right? So if I top them, what do? I'm knocking fruit off. So yes, and that's on any fruit tree. Most of your fruits come out from last year's growth.
I mean, like at the end of the year, after you eat the figs, you clip that sucker off where you pointed, it's gonna have new growth.
So if you
come up from there, right?
So you have to sacrifice the limbs because by the time it ripens in and you cut it, yeah, we'll grow some new wood out. And it might mature enough. It's hard because when you cut it, it might make enough mature wood to be ready for next year. But if not, so you almost need to sort of get into a sacrifice. Like you cut every other limb out, and then next year you cut those limbs, every one of them out. You go back and forth,
Yeah.
And by doing that, you'll make a thick, fat bush
Uh-huh.
and lose the height. Which is great, because I don't do good on.
I like thick, fat bushes.
Yes, yes, yeah. You fall off a ladder, it's not good.
No, ladders, no.
I don't bounce like Tigger, I just, you know.
See, I let the birds eat the tall stuff, they're at the top.
Yeah, they don't do that, they go everywhere. They don't follow the rules.
But that's what I sacrificed the top ones for the birds.
Yeah, but don't they just fly over to the tomatoes?
Yeah, there you go, yes. I'm gonna do one more slide, then I'm gonna give you guys a break. Okay, so we're gonna do about citrus real quick. So citrus in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
We all want citrus, we've been beaten up by freezes and, oh my God, all kinds of stuff, right? So anyway, we can do lots of citrus trees. Some are more cold-hardy than others. Our best seller of all citrus is always the lemon tree. So Myers lemon. So what's beautiful about Myers lemon? So if I give you Eureka lemon or Ponderosa lemon, which is a big old thing, they're lemons, that's all they are, they're lemons. What makes Myers lemons so cool is that the plant has more contact than most lemon trees, and that's not a big old tall growth and more bushy plant. But a lemon, Myers lemon, if you pick it green, some barely yellow blush, it's a lime. If you pick it with a yellow golden hit, but not too golden, it's a lemon. If it goes yellow to orange, it's an orange. So people say, you have a green one previously, I do, right here, so Myers lemon. So you can pick that as you want your fruits for different, textures. You want lime, get lime.
I ain't never.
I never.
So, then there's also the citrus trees, that kind of thing too. Flavorful. It is cool, it's just, and then what's the best thing about it?
Fall and ground.
There you go. So, you know what you sprayed on it, right? You know what you sprayed on it? It's homegrown, so the sugar, the flavors are in there, right? Everything about it is very cool. Yes, ma'am.
I've been trying to grow one of those, and I got successful. I did actually have one fruit, but I saw a lot of flowers, and then they disappeared. Is that the birds?
Is it outdoors or indoors?
Yeah.
Is it thick and healthy or is it leggy kind of?
No, it was pretty healthy. I mean, it's probably it was in its first year, but it had a lot of blooms.
Okay.
It had a lot of blooms, and then all of a
next
sudden
fruit,
they
it's
weren't
got to be
there.
wind pollinated, bees or flies. Somebody's got to get a hold of it. So, it is not getting pollinated. Are you seeing fruit forming and then they fall off or didn't even?
No, I mean, there was a lot of small blooms, but there was one lemon that I got out of it.
Okay.
And it wasn't
didn't
good.
have long thorns, does it?
No.
Okay.
When I bought it, it said it was a Myers lemon.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's just not, you've had it for 2-3 years?
I'm sorry.
2-3 years or less?
No, about a year. It was a year.
This may be
It's on its second
mature
year.
enough then. Yeah, let's get it one more season. Let's try it out. Now, pinch it back, make it thick and bushy. So let's get,
Well, it's in a container.
that's good, that's fine. Yeah, just pinch it so it doesn't get leggy, don't do no loose runners on it. Try good nutrition, try the better fertilizers, and maybe it's not beginning enough, when a plant is bearing fruit, it's like a woman bearing a child, right? So the plant gives all its energy to make the child, right, the fruit. And so if a plant starts to form flowers and it's not feeling like I have what I need, it will cause an abortion thing that just drops, okay? So it could be nutrition. If we find nothing else wrong with it, it's just not there yet. It doesn't have what it wants. If we get past all the other stuff, and then after that, I have more answers. I have to give you somebody else.
I mean, the lemon was pretty large, but it was not good.
The other thing is that sometimes Eureka lemon and our Ponderosa, how large was it when you get larger? This large or really large?
It was a nice size.
So, I'll show you a picture real quick. It's coming up here. Okay. Did it look like that, or did it look more like a elongated lemon? Because this is Myers lemon like this. Myers lemons are mostly round with a little bit of a bump on it. A true lemon has a more elongated with a giant top. So, Myers are very easily grown, almost no hesitation with those. But Eurekas, and some other varieties are a little harder to make fruit. They don't bear as easily. You might not have a Myers, could be the other lemon. And it may just take longer. I have that at the house too, and mine are not producing that heavily either. And they're tall, they want to grow tall, and they don't get grow heavy and fat. They want to stretch. So it could be that one too. So that's a Myers lemon right there. And that's what it should look like when it's homegrown. Beautiful yellow.
I have a
sickness, I love lemon trees. I mean, like, lemon in purses and shoes, I love lemon trees. But I nurture them, I bring them inside during the winter to bring them up, but I just don't think, like, right now, they're so expensive.
On the tree or the fruit?
Yeah, the fruit trees.
Well, so I'm glad you brought that up. So here's not the only reason. There's lots of profit margins and growers, you know, all that has to play to, and freight. Oh my God, freight is terrible. But the other reason for this is, so there's a disease called citrus green. Citrus green. And the disease that got brought in by usual import, okay? We brought it across. And it's in Texas, it's in Florida too. Anyway, so several years ago, citrus green disease got in here. It caused quarantine. So all that grow them are borderline between Texas and Louisiana, which is Saxon and Bethel. Then there's a Brazos nursery in Houston, and along one more down in South called Valley. I have a fourth one that raised beautiful trees, but so for them to be legal to sell a tree, you have to have a sticker on there that shows when it was produced and so forth, that it's half the same. So that's the legality right there. So you already got, you got lawyers involved, there's that cost. Then you have to have a positive flow greenhouse, which means if I open the door of the greenhouse, the air is going to flush past me hard. So they have to have ventilation filter systems so the bug can't get in, right? It's a fully sealed house. It's got to be, you got these big air turbines going in there, blowing air backwards so the bug can't follow me inside. And then you have inspections, which I used to have too, because the government ran out of money. But they were inspecting me and not the grower. Like, what do you bother me for? I just got trees in last week. So, but they were running around everywhere because they could. They were trying to find people and destroy things and blah, blah, blah. So it got to be so bad that one year San Antonio was giving fruit trees away, right? They did it every year. And so they shipped them some trees, citrus trees. I think it was like 300, 400 trees. They didn't ship the tags with them, but that showed they were legal. So the inspectors went over there, checked them out, and Bethel and Son said, "Oh, we're sorry, we'll have those things overnighted to you." The inspector said, "No, they destroyed the trees on site right there." So that's how they are. They're probably state trees, but they get so goofy, and so there's a lot of 300 trees that you're from, so anyway, so all that rises to the cost of the plants. Now, in San Antonio, you're not San Antonio again?
No, I'm saying.
Okay, you San Antonio? No? Okay. Well, San Antonio has a CPS rebate program, and it qualified citrus trees. They will pay you $50 up to 5 trees to put in your yard. So if you bought a tree for, say, $59, at the end it'll be a $10 tree. But it's a CPS issue. They're trying to replace lost trees from the freezing. And so, but citrus green disease is a big thing. So we all have this orange tagging on our fruit trees, and that's so yeah, all that has to cost. So let's take a break now. This is a good spot to stop. So I'll get you guys a break and go to the bathroom.
Are we done with this section?
Don't wish that you'd put me over. I'm still looking.
Yeah, that's it. There's always time. Okay, so
That was the last.
Right?
This is fun.
It is fun. All right, so we talked about lemons. Let's go to the next fruit. Satsumas.
There we go.
All right. So, why are satsumas important? So satsumas are important because if you grow an orange tree in the ground at 32 degrees and 31 degrees, it's in jeopardy of getting frosted or death. There is a, not that it can't survive a 20 hit or whatever, it's the, what I call you, when you put your arm in the freezer, how long can you hold your arm in the freezer? It's at -4, whatever, but I can put my hand in there, but it's a duration. How long, that when you're down there 8 hours and 24 hours below freezing, that penetrates wood eventually. It's weird how some plants have antifreeze, like plants up north, can take down to sub-zeros, and yet you have a beautiful tropical plant, hibiscus, that can't take hold worth a darn. So every plant has its own built-in structure. But so we do satsumas because they'll give you the flavor of an orange with a tangerine peel. And I chew my fingernails off, so I hate peeling oranges. So the tangerines or mandarin you know, they just fall right out of the shelf. And so you get all the goodies and not have to worry about skin infection. So, lots and lots of varieties. There's a Rory, Miho, Bumper. You have the Orange Frost, Arctic Frost. There's a bunch of them. Not one that's any better than the rest of them. There are some flavor differences, and that's hard to describe an orange flavor, how you get past that. But, you know, I'm probably not a big fan of Cito. I think they're too small. But I like the Miho, I like the Bumper, all those are good. Yes, they can be grown in containers. So the thing about the freeze, right? We've had bad winters before. Fiddles will come up next winter. So if you go on the ground and you grow a tree up, you know, and you're going to buy them kind of wiggly about this tall. Make sure it's going to be a little thicker and a little higher up. And then you're going to go a little higher up. And then so we don't know what the freeze was. So, but the thing is, if we get past 2 years of non-lethal freezing, and your tree's up there around 15 feet tall or 12 foot tall, and then guess what? Old man northern blows in, and they're going to tell you that we're going to hit 18 degrees, and for 3 days straight or whatever kind of thing, right? So you've probably seen, maybe that yourself, a giant blue tarp kind of wrap up a big old tree, you know, right? Tarp and clouded is like a single pane window. Goes right on through, didn't do anything. Just a big old blue thing out there. Even with the heater, it's tough for that thing to work properly. So now, if it's going to die, we're going to tell you now to take a beautiful 12-foot tree and chop it 6 feet straight across. Because you can wrap 6 feet. You make a PVC frame greenhouse. You can put a heater inside there. What you're trying to do, we found this out when we cut all the trees down, is that you save the core above the ground. You save the core. It will branch out. Yes, I'm going to do much the first year, but guess what? We have a tree. Otherwise, you know, I'll take you $60 next year. So try to save your tree, because that mature tree will burst out a huge amount of growth and be back in production no time at all. So it's a sacrifice, but it's better than losing the whole darn tree. All right. Limes for the picking. So let's say you don't want to do Myers lemon, because I don't care about limes. I want to do limes. I want more limes. I do lemons or whatever. So you have there's several lime trees. You have a Persian lime, which is for pie baking mainly, and fresh eating. But most people do the key lime, which is the smallest. Yeah. So you know, since foods and drinks, you know, they don't think of Coca-Cola. So, but you know, so limes for but we don't waste small limes. We will waste the big limes. But you need small, because you're going to crack one open, put it in your fish, put it on top of the glass, or drink, whatever you use it for, or sour, whatever. But you know, if you go through small ones, they last long, they store better, and you're not wasting it. You'll probably use 100% by the time you use one, and it's all good. And there's no wrapping with the cellophane paper. Wait for the next day. You know, when you're done, you just disperse it like an old Chick-fil-A sauce thing, and do the next one. So I like thornless, because it don't cut you up. There is thorn, which is fine too, but if you like me and you take fish oil and you're old in your skin, you know, I look like a train wreck when I was these thorn plants. So I like thornless for a lot of reasons. But there's no right or wrong. This is whatever does best for you. So years ago, RD Avocados invaded us, and they're here all along. Nobody knew about it, because there was a gentleman named Bill Schneider who went around the whole state of Texas about 20 years ago and hunted down, back then, remember the freezes in the 80s and 90s? So he hunted avocados that freeze from those winters and brought them back to Divine. That's what he was called, Divine Avocados. And he sold these varieties under different names, and he was the grandfather of this world. The one thing he taught us, and some have more flavor than others, but if you crush the leaf, so if you ever buy an avocado, even from me, you crush the leaf, if you don't get a scent of licorice or anise, it's not cold party.
It's not right.
No, not cold party. So if you took a regular Haas leaf, it's kind of smells like green leaf, that's it. And fresh rice. It will have a true scent. Some are stronger than others, and the belief is that the stronger the scent, the more antifreeze you find it. So there's lots and lots of varieties out there. This one commonly is called Fantastic. We have the picture on that one. So there's a Joey, a Pancho, Fantastic. This one and Pancho are green. So the outside and inside green, right? The Joey is black on green. The difference on this one is that if you were from that area or whatever, you were more native to eating them,
the natives eat these things through the skin, through the meat, right? So this has the thinnest skin of all of them. So if you were like that, like you like to bite through the skin, which are raw nutrients, then that's what we want to do. Otherwise, you peel them.
You can eat the skin of an avocado?
And this one, you can't all of it if it's out of the I'll make any of it.
Hunger is the best spice.
Learned so much today. Thank you.
Watch it.
Of course. I'm not really.
Yeah, okay, so good thing. So in Texas, in California, there's an AV system. Because if you're in a southern part, your climate doesn't change, right? It's pretty much, it's whatever temperature it needs to. So without the change of environment from cold to heat back and forth, they won't pollinate. They don't know they've been through a cycle. So when they flower sporadically, they have an AV system. And so you're going to read about that. I get this all the time. And here's the thing. I might send you 2 of them, but you only need 1. So down here, because you cycle through seasons, you buy 1 and you're done. If you buy it, they're going to make themselves. My brother had one, back then it was called Lila. We think it's Poncho, the name's been changed because everybody's doing their own thing now. But he had for 10 years until the Snowmageddon with 1 tree. And Lavernia. And I guarantee you, there's not an orchard of avocados in Lavernia. And so 1 tree for 10 years, they have fruit every year. And so he did, they lost it and so same thing, if we had known better, he could have cut the tree down. Actually, it wasn't that big to begin with, but he could have cut it more reasonably. But he thought, it's a test, that's what we do, we get our whole blood. It's a test, and of course it failed. But it's hard, as you look at it, it worked. But he lost the tree right away. So something like a citrus, just be careful on the cold. They can take cold. We kind of put it between 24 to 28, getting how long it's the same. But just, so normal winters, we'll go through them. But just watch if it drops hard, fast, and long, then even these guys can be protected too.
How do they pollinate?
Sorry?
How do they pollinate?
Bees win and flies win.
So did he redo a tree? Did he do another tree?
We can grab another tree.
No, I mean, did he do another tree?
Oh, no, he bent down into something else. So now he's on blueberries, like I am.
All right.
How long does it take that one to fruit?
Okay, so because they're grafted, so if you were to come to the grafting class, right? But reason why do we graft, right? So the reason why we graft is sometimes, like Bill, he found a beautiful fruit. Now he couldn't dig the tree and pick it back, that's one reason. But sometimes you can have the best fruit, but it has a sorriest root system. So they put the best fruit on the hardiest root system. So that way, so we have root systems like Nimagard resistant root system for peaches, and I forget the name. And so for Texas, we have 2 of them. And they put them on both of them, it's kind of a field test. Most people know which one you're buying, it's just that they do it to see which one's going to work better. But the problem about Texas and around San Antonio is we go north, we have rock, we have black clay, we have red clay, we have sandy loam, we have sand and sugar sand. So I can't have 8 root systems. So a lot of times clay is my enemy. Sand, it drains well, it has to go over. But so you can grow almost anything in sand, you have to just add certain things to it. Clay is a persistent problem because it's hard to mend clay well. That's why raised beds were developed, get all the clay on top there, including fruit trees sometimes. But that's why we do grafting, because again, we might develop this beautiful thing like that tropical snow peach. If it had a worse root system, not only would it be a freeze issue, it would die on its own root system, possibly because it's a sorry root system. But the fruit is great. So you take both worlds, put them together, and that's why we do that. So that's why grafting is so important. Okay, so grapes, and there's lots and lots of varieties now. So hybrid and muscadine. So hybrid is, again, grossly pollinated plants that come out with new varieties, no GMO. Muscadine, like wild Mustang grapes. So those are hardier, but they're not sweet. The fruit's different, they're more sour, right? So everybody likes them. So we do the more hybrid varieties. You've got some new ones called Victoria and Southern Sensation. There's some very new, there's a red grape that's worked very hard down here, and there's a white grape that's very hard. I'll have a picture of those for the next class on that one. And so we can do now both types. I like red over white, only because of the health benefits of the red. Your bloodstream opens up better, your veins up. Red is better for you than white, but I like white grapes too. So they're both good. They're all seedless now, which is good. And you get the sugar effect, but
but we get away from, as far as we can, it's not bulletproof, that's this other world comes into play, of Pearson disease, which is a show disease that will kill your grapes. Kind of like cotton root rot, but it's a grapes. And so we have some good grapes out there, but the problem is we have issues with the soil. So again, unless you put everything in fox farm potting soil, you're going to go find it on the ground, and so you've got to get both rows. This is an old one called Flame, and I've had it for years. Mine still works great, but I'm not in block clay. I'm not saying loam, so the disease is limited to where I'm at. So I can do some other varieties, but you can't have the disease, and what happens, it will destroy your plant. Now, most grapes, you want to buy, you notice, this is not like the ones in the store where they're all bound up tight like this, right? In Texas, that causes problems. You get a fungal problem I mentioned earlier. When you're bound up like that, you'll get a fungus in there, and then one will rock, pop, 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 like you're popping balloons. They'll shrivel up, which will make grapes, raisins. And so so you have the more loose of the cluster, the least amount of problem. See that problem with that dark one over there? I think that's the right one. That one's starting to shrivel on that side of here. So you can get a issue with if they're too tight clustered. So we want loose clustered grapes. So they can be long or whatever, but we want them to kind of be like a loose cherry tomato straight. Now, we have cures for that, and we'll talk about that too. Okay, so we've grown our crops. You did a good job. You know what I told you to? And then remember that spot I told you about, like a peach knot? That's why they didn't make market. That right there. So, doesn't hurt anything. It just looks ugly. But it's a bacterial spot. That, though, is deadly. And that one can be deadly, too.
Deadly to who?
To the peach.
You make a great question. Just checking, man.
No, if you eat it too rotten, it might be deadly for you. But anyways, it destroys your crop. And so you've got to go with. So I'm going to show you something real quick. And I think some more stuff here coming up too. But there's going to be some problem. I'm going to show you this one here because there's a new fungicide that came out. These guys, Verlo is a good company. They're horrible at making names and products, like Fungicide 5. What does that mean? Fungicide. It wasn't a 4, 3, 2, or 1 before this, so why is it Fungicide 5? But it's a bacteria. Now, let's get back to this bacteria, and why I'm mad at Bayer Company, is that we had a product called Serenade years ago, which is in this picture. And they have a bacteria. This bacteria destroys fungal cell walls, which dehydrates, basically dehydrated fungus. So Bayer Company bought them out, and we thought, well, maybe they're trying to buy them out because they want to be good stewards and get into the organic world too. No, they killed the company off in 2 years. So destroyed competition. Never bought another product back out. So Ferblone developed their own species, because there's a trademark. They developed their own species of bacteria. And when I say develop, all they did is look for, there's billions of strands out there. You just got to find one that works on the fungus. And so they have their product. So this is an organic product. You can spray tomatoes, grapes, whatever, and destroy fungal products, cells, and eat same day, next day, wash off the fruit. That's it. So, but anyway, that's the thing. We don't get to the finish line until we get to the finish line. We got trials to get through.
Is that the same, we also had grapefruit and orange trees, and they would have white, is that the same fungus?
You could have one powder mildew, yes.
It was powder.
Yeah, and I've never seen it on citrus here, but maybe where you're at. But yeah, we have other issues,
Yeah.
but I've never seen fungus on that in Texas. So
The guava trees would never get it. We had so many guava, but the grapefruit and the orange
Really?
always had, they would get that white powder stuff.
Okay, well, that's, yeah. Yeah, but then it wasn't mealybug, wasn't it?
I mean, I don't know, I'm learning right now so
Okay.
much.
Well, so there could be an insect called mealybug or woolly aphids. It could be something else, but I just never seen it here. But it is. So don't worry, just keep it there. So now we move from the fruit. Now, oh my God, now my pet got fungus on it, right? So now I got bacterial spots. So the same product. Okay. There's one fungicide picture coming up in a little bit. I'm going to talk about copper fungicide. I'll talk about now. Do not ever spray copper fungicide on a peach tree. It will defoliate. It's an organic. You can read that. They say organic, and it is, but it's safe for everything else. But do not use it for peach trees. They use that in the fall when the tree is about 3/4 defoliated. You spray copper fungicide on the tree. It'll knock the rest of the leaves off, but it puts the coating on the open wounds. It stops the bacteria from getting into the open wounds.
So that would be like a preventative for next
Preventative,
year?
right, yes.
Okay.
And so, like anything, like open wounds, right, you get stuff in it, so that's what, it helps stop it from happening.
When are you supposed to put it on then?
In October-ish, roughly. All right, so now we're into the pest world, okay?
Pay attention, Mac.
Yep, all kinds of pests. Bug pest, this pest,
I'm riveted.
and one more pest.
Oh, God, that's why I wash my stuff up.
This is okay, right?
No,
Or the bugs?
Big bugs. Big bugs, which get on all your plants, tomatoes, everybody else, right? Just stick a hole in there, like a mosquito does, and it sucks the juice out, but they also deposit another product in there, and that whelps up your plant because of hard core. So if you have tomato plants that have hard cores in there, look ugly, dispersed, that's normally a stink bug. And they're edible, but something about eating that just don't sound right. And they make nasty core spots. Then you have other problems, so breaking through the plants, then there's things inside there, like the weevils, you get cracks in there. And then the other worst one is shot borers. So shot borers looks like you got mad, you made somebody mad at the house and they took a shotgun and hit their post out of the shoes.
Yeah.
So shot borers, if you had regular borers, normally one or two get at the bottom of the tree, you can normally knock them out from the bottom if you get it early enough. The problem with shot borers, they come out by the hundreds. And so they're in all the limbs. It's like wood ants on steroids. And so now what do you do, right? The holes are all inside there. And what's deadly about it is they destroy the canyon layers and stop the water flow from going to the plant. It's like you're cutting off veins. So water's not going up and down the tree no more. And so the tree, heat comes on, the tree starves out because it can't get its demand, and then you lose limbs, dehydration. And I think it's fairly noticeable, but sometimes, a person will just keep watering. The water, I think, is dry, and that has nothing to do with it. It just can't get water. So, anyway, and then these two.
So do you just get rid of that kind of tree?
Sometimes, yeah, if you're organic on this one, and you can try spraying permethrin spray, the problem is that you spray the tree on the outside, the borers inside up and down the tubes. So it didn't want to get them out of it. Now, sometimes if you take permethrin or pyrethrum is the organic one, and you mix a little bit of ammonia, not too much, a little bit of ammonia. Ammonia will scare them out. They can't take the scent. You probably can't either. But you spray it on there, and it fumes in there, and they've got to move around, and hopefully they move out to get into the poison. Or, and it's hard to do this, on that one there, you take a syringe and you syringe as many holes as you can and shove it up in there. Who's going to do that? So yeah, so now there's one control. We're working with more, and I don't have the flat ones, the big ones to show you, but so they make sticky traps for house plants. So when you have your house, right, you get a little flying gnats, right? So then that's another issue we talked about one day. But they're flying in there. So this is the yellow canary in the mine pit. You hang yellow sticky cards out there, and sometimes you can't see a bug on the plant, but if you have a sticky trap and you get the big one like this one on the fruit tree, you look on that card, oh, look who's here. And if you're not sure, you screenshot it, send it to somebody. And what is this bug? What's going on? How to cure it? But it's your early warning device. So this one, having this one normally will mean you can use less chemical remedies to stop it before it becomes bad. Yes.
How do you use it, like, putting the budding and fruit bud, or look after the fruit forms on the tree?
So in the beginning of the springtime, so when peaches and other fruit trees are being formed, after the flower is made, the fruit sits, it becomes not quite marble size. Then you spray, again, permethrin, pyrethrum, benzoyl on this, malthion, as a preventive for the early-born disease, insects. The problem is that nothing lasts more than 3 to 5 days anymore, maximum 3 days, 5 max. So it's hard to spray consistently. So sometimes that's why it's important, because chemicals are not $12 a thing or $9. They're $14.99 or $19.99 a bottle. And some of them are, there's a few of them that are 2 ounces, or I'm sorry, 2 teaspoons a gallon of water. Some are 4 ounces per gallon of water. So if we buy a pint, how many gallons are going to make for your fruit tree? So, so it becomes expensive to spray. So yeah, get on top of this is a big deal.
What about fire ants?
So firemen, so the firemen can do some damage if they get by under the tree. They can disrupt some of the fungal mats, they can cause, they can eat some roots too, especially in pots. So the safe way on that one is get a product called Spinosad. And, or Spinosad, it's S-P-I-N-O-S-A-D. And you make a liquid drench, you drench it on there, that's easy kill. And
You
so-
do that like now?
Yeah, anytime. You have a
We've seen
vendor.
them on the peaches, like they'll come out of the peaches when we pick it.
Well, then that means you got to spray it earlier on, yeah. But if you have ants, then you've got ants crawling, so you have to protect the bottom of the tree. The activated earth, as the rain works what they do. Yeah, then you have to use, if you use tanglefoot on the tree, you've got to put foil around it first, and then put it on it, because tanglefoot can burn the outside canyon layer of the tree. But the problem is the ants are smart, so they may go into the foil. So they made foil with the plant.
What's the name of that fire ant thing again?
The spawn
Oh,
or something.
Spinosad.
Spinos.
Spinosad. S-P-I-N-O-S-A-D.
That would be safe.
And I got a picture coming up pretty soon.
Chickens,
Okay.
the spinosad would be safe. for
Yeah,
chickens,
it's
Things like
a,
that.
so Spinosad, I'll talk about that in a picture. So Spinosad was founded by some people who went to the Caribbean. I don't know if it was who it was, but they went there and they found old bottles of rum. I don't know, the entire days or whatever they, but, so when they found it, they found dead bugs in there. Which my brother thought I got drunk and had a party time. But evidently they made a bacteria in it. And so they took it back with them, right? And they grew more and grew more. And Spinosad was born, but when it first came out, the label came out under Captain Jack. Yeah. Out of all the products in the world, we couldn't figure out why they call it Captain Jack and to find the story arise where it came from. That made more sense. So anyway, so Captain Jack. But yeah, but so it's a raw byproduct. But don't drink it.
I have a question. Can all these disease things work on plums too?
Yes, but plums don't tend to have much problem. Peaches have more problems than plums do. Plums really have, no, the insect problems are all the same. But the fungal problems are more reduced on a plum tree.
Well, I've had them, what do you call them, shot?
Yeah, sharpboard,
I've
yeah.
had them in my.
Yeah, they don't care what kind of fruit you eat, they love all fruit.
Yeah.
But they don't seem, but the other issues on, like the fungal problems on a plum, I'm not saying you can't have it, but they seem like they're more reduced. I read every single day coming in, my plum's full of bacterial spots, I never see it, ever.
Because it's a thicker.
So to piggyback on the plum question, so I had some wonderfully productive plum plants, trees. I don't know how old they were. They lasted about 5 years after we moved into the house, and we had some board wheels.
Okay.
So I had an arborist out to look at some other trees, and I asked him about those, and he said, plums is not even worth trying to save. They're short-lived trees, just replant them. Would you agree with that?
No,
Or
well, 15 years, depends on how much you love them, right? But 15 years is an average lifespan of all fruit trees. Pears go above that. If you've seen pears on farm for 55 years. But your stone fruits is 12 to 15 years as average. What you don't want to do is, if you buy a tree for $39 and you have issues that are at 5 years, right? So you would have had 10 more years to do. But what I want you to do is necessarily spend $120 on a $49 tree. That's where it gets kind of funny. You got to make decisions on it. You know, if it's already fully developed and mature, and, you know, and it's guaranteed that will cure it, then there's pretty economic involved in it. Otherwise, you know, but then if whatever happened to it, we put the same one in the same place. Yes, there's other issues there too. So yeah, if it's got issues, then what do we do?
I figure about 15 years.
15 years.
What about olive trees?
Yeah, yeah. So olives, and I think I got pictures of them too. So olive trees are, you can do them. Yes. Yeah, at all.
They last
Let
for
me come back.
generations.
Yeah, except for the winter. There's a place called San Diego's Olive Farm that had 10,000 trees in South Africa. She got hit with a bad freeze and it wiped out the whole crop. Now, we don't know if it came back from roots because I think they were all cutting grown. But she also passed with cancer too. So she died before the crop died. So that's a weird thing in there. But and she was heavily involved in it, so it was probably a good thing. But yeah, it's a shame. But our queen is the only one that we've had to live with down here.
Yeah, but Greek, she gets cool there too.
It does, but that was that one, well, the winter, it was brutal again. Before this, the weather was snowy again before that. But it just too much work. All right, so these products I got shown on the thing up there. So Captan is hard to find. I don't think I need them anymore. That's why this will be updated for the next thing. But this was a project put about that's gone now, that now is fungicide 5, and we're doing it. Fungicide 5, that's liquid powder, which does, everything says, right? And it's somewhere on there, it's gonna show organic, right there, for organic production. It does what it's supposed to do, make for roses, sometimes make blue roses though, because it has a blue skin. But it's a great product, normally not too expensive, I don't think it's that price, we're gonna look it up price. But anyway, but it's a good product, just not for leaves on a peach tree.
So should you spray on, I guess you have to read the label, of course, but is that like a foliar
Foliar spray.
application?
Yes.
Not bark?
Yeah.
And not the soil?
Well, it's foliar if that's where the problem's at, otherwise it's bark on the fall.
So is that Luby's? Or is that?
No, these are all just generic restaurants. No.
All right, here's the bad boy now.
So everybody got problems, right? So pear trees, they get a disease called fire blight. So fire blight, when the petals are wide open and bloom, there's a bee flying around. Hawthorns get it, pyracanthes get it, a bunch of plants get it. Not everybody gets bad shape, but they can. But pears can get it pretty bad. And it can get so bad that the end will turn black, like it's on fire, I call it fire blight, it burns up. But it gets into the bloodstream and can run down the pear and back to the core. So when I was this tall, we had 12 trees on the property. They were big. And the job back then for me, that when we had a bad that year, is I had to cut all the trees back to proper length. And we cut 12 trees, you remember fire blights all that. And so, but the bad part is every cut I made, I had to sterilize it, make another cut, sterilize it, oh, bigger tool now, sterilize it, or I spread it. And when you saw it black on the outside, it was dark this far to the inside. So I was cutting way beyond what I saw. So if you go in for a snip right here, you didn't snip it out, it's gone. And so it's gonna run down there. So I was removing 1/3 of the trees to get ahead of it. So there's lots of pears. There's a fan still pear that my grandfather and Dr. Still, he went to Mexico somewhere, and fan still is a like Conte type pear. And on his honeymoon, he wanted to go visit the orchards out there. And so he went to the orchards and he was talking to the natives there, and they were talking, and said, yes, one tree never gets fire blight. These all get fire blight and this one doesn't. And so, remember what I mentioned grafting? Grandpa, Dr. Still brought in some wood to Grandpa. They grafted it, grew the tree, and it's #1. In California, Ellie Cook Company was our big grower back then. This is #1 resistant of all pear trees in the market. And it was rated from a scale from 1 to 10, it was at a 9, where everybody else was down at 4s. So it was that much of a difference on the resistance of the fire blight. Kiefer pears, Monterey pears, all 4s, 5s, 3s. Bartletts are 2 and 3, if I don't do Bartlett down here. So there's nobody's bulletproof. But I did not cut the fancy pears as much. I had to cut some, so I said resistant. But it wasn't like I wasn't removing giant pieces. The thing about fancy pear is it's semi-dwarf naturally. So there's one on the ground that's 40 years old, and it's still not over 15 feet. It's not wider than 10 feet. So it's a nicer compact. It's a soft pear. So if you like eating soft pears, then you want that one. If you want a canning pear, you go to Keeper. If you want one, you know what you're going to do with it, you buy Monterey, because it's firm enough to eat, but or soft to eat, but firm enough to can with. So that's a pretty measurable flavor. There's also Orient and there's Melvin. Then you got Asian pears and all that stuff. But so soft pear, fan still in resistance, #1 tree by unless you plan on doing like a canning and one go to Keeper.
They taste good.
Oh yeah, rich. And little rich.
Pear trees last how long?
35 to 45 years is average.
Okay.
It's all about health now.
Because I've got on our farm, we have it's more than 50 years old.
Yeah, see, like I said, that's how these farms.
But then too, it's like rock hard.
That's Keeper.
Okay.
Keeper is a pear that, so it was well known in the old days, right? It's a canning pear, yeah. What's cool about it is that you can drop on the ground, You can kick it, hit it with a baseball bat. Leave it down there till January, come back, kick it again, make some more with it. But it won't rot easily. So they store.
Okay, gotcha.
In hard times, that's what they wanted, because they, again, the refrigerators, they have cellars. You could put them out there and store them, and then they won't shut them go again. They might finally get soft one day, but they actually try to rot at that point. But yeah, they were a long-term storing pair naturally.
The keepers.
Keepers, yeah.
So that little jar next, picture there, right?
So just like if we had a bacterial problem, we would take an antibiotic, anyway, it's in there. The same thing we take for your probiotic antibiotic is in some too. The problem with this product here, streptomycin, is that I buy these bottles, like how I told at the time, they were shelf life at 4 weeks from when I buy them and they're dead. So I can't store them, I can't buy them because I was eating them and I take credits for them and all kinds of stuff. So, so the only way to really stop it is to either special order this somewhere or make sure the date is a good date if you have that problem, or you just become a butcher boy and get there and start cutting them out. The good news is, in the last 20 years, I have not seen but very small cases of it. So whatever was going on back in the old days, in the 80s, was something different. It was wild back then, but rarely do I see people bringing in branches and they're bound like so. It hasn't been a big seller, and I don't have to cure much of it. It's just there once in a while. Most time we get people who come in early enough, we just tell them cut a few limbs off and we're done. But it's all about, this one is strictly hygiene on the cuts. Otherwise you just keep moving down the road with it for you.
All right, this is the one I hate. I hate red spider mites too. So white flies almost look kind of cute up close, like a big old butterfly, but that's the real size. The problem with white flies is they breed very fast. That's already the eggs and the babies right there, the big so the big guys are right there. The problem with them is to try to spray them and coat them is hard because as soon as you go with the hose on sprayer, they whoop, they fly. And I think it's a bad way when you shut your mouth, it's like a fun mouth like that. So they're meant to spray nocturnally, and you get a sprayer called an atomizer or a fine mist sprayer. And a fine mist sprayer, something like this will work in a small plant, right? You get to the fine mist bottle, buy a chemical resistant one, so it has better oil rings in there. And you would just slowly, just at night, squirt, fine. You gotta try to coat them. Because once you disturb them, they're airborne. And so, but again, what we had to stick cardboard to stop that early on. We would have solid on there. So the stick card would have prevented me from having this big mess of paying attention to the card. Otherwise, it's squirt. And, underneath the leaf, that's what mostly at. So they're a nuisance, they're controllable, but you're gonna get a workout in your fingers. So you can use pyrethium, neem oil, sometimes a combination of spinosad and some other product work. There's not really like one that just is great for them. I'm starting to use, so the one I use on mine, and for red spider mites, you remember I mentioned spinosad, whatever? Now there's spinosad soap. So you get the bacteria with the soap killer too. So I can stop them in flight, I don't know about the soap product. The bacteria will kill them also. I'll stop killing the soap product that's in here. And this is not Dawn. It's actually fatty acid rather than the soap product. But this will coat them, stop the flight, lock them down, and let that kill them, smother them, and let the bacteria kill them both. But but you got to be sneaky with it. Now this one's hard. This gets on your citrus trees and your tomato plants. They call them leaf miners, because what are they doing? They're mining. And guess what? They're in between both layers, or they're in between leaves, so you can't spray them top and bottom because they're inside. So now what are you going to do? You going to use a systemic on your tomato plant? Probably not.
If you pull the leaves.
Yes. So there you got it. So early detection. When you first see them, pull leaves. It's a little bit every day, watch new leaves, get them out. They move out of the leaf to the next leaf. Again, the yellow stick card to help too. But otherwise, if you watch your plants daily, you'll catch these things. But you gotta pick. It's not deadly, it can disrupt some production a little bit. Like I would pull the plant out, but it's just that, it cosmetically doesn't look pretty, and it's a slow reduction of stuff, but, we don't want them right. We don't want them. So, this is the horror movie now. Immediately, I mean, scale. So all kinds of scales. Get blown up, you know, baby, look at the baby. But they come out in numerous numbers, and they're leeches. So they're going to suck on the bark and dehydrate the bark, shrink it. Your veins collapse, so now the water's not getting top again. So if you haven't caught this issue, which was also called the stems to turn from green to black, but they're spinning, or they're spinning, they're doing everything. But they're junk out of the body. And it turns sticky, and then black mold gets on there, and you get black trunks. The white flies do the same thing too. But you get all that black junk on there, and you get mold. But the worst part is the dehydration. They're just taking that healthy plant and shrinking it. And you're wondering why your plant's wilting, not growing, and then, oh my God, I got scale or mealy bugs that go bad. And the same spray does it all again. But you just got to get ahead of it. And you got ahead of the birth. Red spider mites birth every 3 days. So red spider mites are a 9-day spray every 3 days apart with a follow-up every 5 days for 2 sprays. That's how bad they can get. If you let them go and miss your time, you start over again. So.
Are those common?
I'm sorry?
Red spider mites are very common here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was afraid of greenhouse spiders. Yeah. They're not fun. All right, so, remember Captain Jack? Here he is. But the joke is, it's not Captain Jack Sparrow. This is Vacation Jack. But that's spinosad there, that's been spinosad. And then there's some products out there that have, there's all kinds of things in there. There's stuff that has, I think it says clove oil, thyme oil. There's a lot of oil products. And so a lot of folks are growing herbs, making their own oil spray too. So your herbs for cooking and for other reasons also. There's the calming lavender or whatever, but some are making their own stuff, making their own bug spray. So and that's fine. All right, so, yes, ma'am.
Do you have any tips for leaf cutter ants?
So leaf cutter ants are tricky. I have a wilty lady, first of all, I'll give you the number right, move to a place so it's easy. But the other way would be to do it is go to H-E-B, get Brakeman cereal, and for some reason they want Brakeman cereal, not the offhand, and get you a can of Surrender, which is called acetate. And very sticky smelling product. You're going to get a baggie of Brakeman cereals, and you're going to put in about 3 tablespoons of that sticky stuff, and you shake it out there at night and go with the bake. If that stuff stinks, they don't smell it. But they're going to pick up the Brakeman cereal, and some make it to the nest, some won't. They'll die off. But guess what? The next one came is just the Brakeman cereal. So they keep taking it back, until it's in the nest. Then, since it's a systemic, it sort of grows into a fungal mat, and it kills off the fungal mat a little bit, when they bite into it. So, what else they're doing? They're making all these leaves and go back to the fungal mat. So, it's hard to get a bait back in there. Andrew had a green ball bait at one time, it's gone now. Burger fire bait is not working. I've tried taking, I have the big red mouse at my house. And I've taken the show before, take a hole, dropped it in 3-inch pool tablets, trying to get gas out of it, right, chlorine gas. Tried that, that'll work on that too. In the old days, they had a product called High Life, which was a fumigant. You put it in the ground, and it would draw down the problem. It goes to the water table, so that's gone now. Acetate, Surrender, and Brakeman cereal. And does that,
Did you say grapefruit cereal?
Brakeman.
Grape.
And then, I've had some that have so bad that they've actually put night lights and light yard like a tennis ball field to try to make things daylight so it wouldn't get your yard. So it can be that severe. So there's no, just like getting a local person, but it's hard because it's just there's no good cure for that. We have tools to and they're so smart that if you put a dust on the tree, they'll make a leaf bridge to go across it. Yeah. So. They say, they're intelligent because we can't find a way to, without using GPS, and they find a way across the farm. So peach trees. Peach trees are grown to be open bowl shaped. Okay. So wide open, as much open center as possible. And then, we want sunlight coming in the middle of the tree, outside the leaf. But the big goal is we don't want to be up there in the tree climbing. So we want the trees low and wide. Now, pears and plums, upright. You can only thin them out so much. They're hard to get really fat and wide. They're going to have height. We can't help that. But apple trees, other trees, citrus trees, you pinch them, widen them, Yeah, very well. But it should look like champagne or a fluted bowl.
When you're cutting the center grass there, should you put some sort of topical on that?
Okay, so, yes, so when you prune limbs that are tiny, like this kind of tiny stuff here, I don't really mess with it. But when you get into 1 inch and 1/4, 2 inch limbs and cut them, there's two things you can use. One is, because we're talking about hygiene, right? We want to put a scab on there. So you can either put the burning paint on there, or it's brush aerosol. I like aerosol because it frees my hands up. You spray on the top there, that covers it with an asphalt-y wound on there. There's an argument about it burning some of the canyon layers of some plants, so there's a back and forth argument on this one. It does a good job, just that can it burns on the top of the plant a bit. So that makes a quick coating. If it's smaller wood, probably inch and lower, I'm starting to typically use Elmer's wood glue and put a coating of Elmer's wood glue on top. That's more natural and makes a nice top coating on there. And it was fine, and you know, it's not ugly.
Could you spray some of that onto something small, like a Q-tip or something, and then put that on?
No, if we did that, I get the liquid in. There's a can of jar with it.
Oh.
There's some that
Yeah, you're gonna end up with like finger. So it's not hard. It's not hard. It's hard to get off. It's not hard to do it to get yourself all messed up in there. So yeah, get it if you can. All right. So parapruning, like I was just kind of saying, it's more of a thinning action. It's not a whole lot of, we can't do a lot of shortening of this thing. It's just more of a branchy system. We can wind up a little bit, but not a whole lot. All right. So pecans, right? And what a great town to talk about pecans. What is it known for, right? Pecans. So. Pecans, there's Pecandrus and Protagonus, two different sexes. So what it means is some varieties put out the flower first, then they form the nutlet. Okay, so that pollen doesn't go to this top of it, that same work. The other variety does the nut first and then blooms out. So the crossing is the timing, right? So you want two varieties on those normally, but again, we're in South Texas, pollen meters in the air, so most likely there's enough pollen that you don't worry about buying a tree thing. But as you look at super pecan trees, like Desirable and Pawnee and all these, like Choctaw and Kiowa and Kanzi, all these things, but look up on my tag on the bottom, we put it on, make sure we put the Pecandrus and Protagonus. You want one of each type, make sure. So with that working, then you'll have nuts. All right, so now they got their own problems too. Here comes scab, another fungal problem. Now this time you can't spray copper fungicide or fungicide 5, the original name. Any fungicide will work basically as long as it's labeled for trees. But without it though, this happens normally around July or so, August. If you don't spray them, and it's normally works on the first 1/3 of the tree where the airflow is horrible, that's where the fungal problem set in. Up higher, the air moving around, things out. But it mummifies the fruit. That's what the fungus does, it dehydrates. And it just mummifies the fruit, which is worthless and that kind of thing. So, there's other things also, but you got case bearers, which get them too when they're young.
How do you know what kind of pecan tree you have if you don't know, if you didn't buy it?
That's called a don't ask, don't tell. No, what you look for is at the timing of its flowering, which comes out first. Is it the flower or the nut? So kind of watch.
So if it's a flower, what is it?
And they may report me to somebody who's seen a tree up and trying to take pictures of the flower.
What does the flower look like?
It looks like
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well, you're saying they're on the ground. They're nasty. They mat the whole ground with that nasty old dry junk there.
They turn brown.
Yeah. The big drop, those will drop, that dropped your throat. So this gets it. And we had one time 105 pecan trees in the nursery, each one different variety. And still my front store has a big old Texas giant pecan tree, and it's already blooming. And I love the tree, but right where it's at is a mess on all my flowers for about 2 weeks. The nasty thing is putting all the flowers out in the trees, the ground, it just looks big.
And as just some advice from experience, if you ever are knocking pecans out of the tree and one hits you in the eye, you really need to get seen by an eye doctor. I did that and I had the fungus that's there, getting in your eye. and I had to go to all kinds of specialists and do all kinds of treatment. And he said, "You're the first." So I had to go to.
Somebody has to be, I guess.
Yes.
Wear glasses.
Yeah, I mean, safety glasses, when you're spraying, you're supposed to wear, protective stuff, which is eyeglasses, long-sleeve shirt, like Roundup. If you're spraying Roundup still, which is, I do myself, but you should wear long pants, long-sleeve shirt, yeah. It's not really yours not common sense because who expected that, but chemical spraying, just a common sense thing, to protect your body from drip sprays, that kind of thing.
And I had a big hat on, but when I looked up, it just hit me right in the eye.
I'm gonna keep my glasses on.
It was a weekend, so I didn't get it looked at, it didn't hurt that bad.
No,
But
but-
by Monday, it was horrible.
Yeah, well, I never heard either, so you're the first. Okay, so, tag, when you're seeing tags, mine are printed out, we do these tags too. There's a chart from 0 to 1,000, that's chill out, okay? So remember, this is considered it's got a range of this because it has no number, it doesn't know where to go, so it's just whatever. So that's a chill neutral plant. So in South Texas, there's gonna be a little guideline here. The hours clock at 45 degrees, so it's not freezing weather. At 45 degrees and lower, the chill numbers pop. And the longer we stay below 45, the more hours add up. Obviously, they go up and down. If we get too warm, above 70, you can actually subtract off the 45. So we don't get too warm, so we need enough hours. But you'd be surprised overnight, 10 hours, in 10 days, it's 100 hours, right? So on a 6-week, roughly winter run or so, you'd be surprised how many hours add up to make 400, 500 hours. So it's not that hard. But the reason why they're not straight line is because you're not seeing elevation. Okay. So this is lower we go to the sea level, the lower chill, the higher we are. That's why hill country is up there. That's why you have chillers. So if you look right, Bear County, you guys are right close to this here. We say 600 hours. That's kind of a high. Back then that was the normal number. With the warming spell, we're down to 450, 550 at tops. So we kind of do 400 or 500 is kind of make our range run. If it goes too low, what happens? They wake up too quickly, then they flower, and late freeze hits them. That's why you can't drop too low. You go too high, you never make fruit. Too low, you take a chance. Temperate tropic zone. But that's where you want to be at, around that 400 range.
So if you bought a tree at a plant sale or something,
Yep.
and you didn't have the chill hours tag on it, is there a way to figure out what variety you have? 'Cause I have no idea what.
Well, if it doesn't say fruit, we don't know.
But
Yeah.
ours says fruit, but is it best to bring a fruit? to some
Yeah.
of the two?
Yeah, take a picture when it's ripened. Well, picture flowers too.
Okay.
Flower picture when it's big size, and then cut it and show them the picture. Like I did my fig. I need to see the inside picture. And if it's fruit stone, not fruit semi,
Yes.
all that.
Because there's so many varieties, it gets hard to kind of, All right, so how do we know the cold hours in the area, right? So 2 years ago, I found this device that tracks everything. Wind, rain, air movement, and it backs up the history as long as I want it to. I mean, it goes back. It's on an app. So it's a weather station called Tempest. I don't endorse it. I don't sell them. I just found it. I love it. My brother's got one. Tempest is, again, it records everything, right? It's instant. It's history making. It's helpful because you're looking for. It'll show you how many hours were below a certain range. So we said, well, I'm pretty sure I had 400 hours. Well, I didn't, because I looked at my thing, I had my math up, I didn't have 400 hours. So in your area, because everybody has a microclimate, right? That big thing I showed you earlier was a gauge. Doesn't mean that somebody's going to be have a little higher, somebody's going to be a little lower. It's about elevation, the way, it's really cool. If water pours in this building, we can see it running past us right on the exit. You can't see wind. And wind moves and drops, and that's where it's invisible to us unless you have maybe some feather grass or something's blowing around. But you can't see wind, how it moves in air. So it's moving all around us, it's running through channels, but it's invisible to us. So this thing will show a graph, day and night, what's going on, which I hope we don't see that for a while there. But every night and day, it goes up inside here. You can make it hourly, you can make it monthly, you can make it go back, whatever, as a history. So I tell you, do your own research, if you want to do weather stations. Again, I just found this one by accident.
You know, on my phone right now, I can look at right now what's going on. If it's raining in my house, I can watch it adding up, work on hempatic droplets. The other ones I found had rain gauges, always had bugs in them, junk in them, dust. They didn't drain properly, so I got rid of all mine. Because if the rain hits this top up there, it's counting. I didn't think it was accurate, but we put rain gauges next to it, and it's right on the money with it. And then the cool thing about this one is that it also communicates with other owners. And you would be surprised, this is actually an old map now, that's how many people own those in this area. And that's doubled already by now. So, because they're about $300, that's why I thought, well, we could have this crazy thing, but no, there's a lot of people who have them. And work on a network, it's feeding all the information back to the weather people. So it's more accurate versus a weather station here, that kind of thing. But anyway, so just think about, look at it and see if it's affordable, whatever to you. But it's something I like. It's a good tool tracker on there to help you out long term. So again, we're going to have little varmints, right? Like I said, the birds, the raccoons. It's everything, right? So you have to find something that's kind of scare them off. Yeah. So there's the owl thing, right? Okay. There's the cat. Well, cat's too lazy to help you out any. So one thing left is to find some crazy guy that used to be in our business, but make him scary. So walk around like that. So, but no matter what we do, we're in for this for growing for the harvest. We want to make fruits. So the whole idea is grow the fruit, make the fruit. That's natural fruit coming into your body. Not store-bought, no chemicals. Because what you eat. Here's a fruit of spinach for Popeye. He knew a long time ago. So, all right, so that's it for that program there. I was asked to do this program a couple of days ago. Nancy couldn't be here. So this will be brand new to me too, so we'll go through it together. So we're going to talk about trees, and then, I may put a little spin on it on my belief, but for the most part, we're going to do things. So we're going to talk about ornamental trees for Texas homes, okay? And we'll talk about some shade trees too, so that's ornamental shade both. So anyway, so let's start this together and we're going to learn together. So that's what it's all about, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this first picture, what is that?
Red bud.
There you go, good. So what's the best thing about a red bud is that it's the first tree to bloom in the springtime. So if you're in doubt that spring might be coming, although it could still be 6 weeks later, but red buds are the first sign that we're finally heading in the right direction. So, and I'm sure as we go through these slides that she's done this to where you can have color in your yard almost all year. Probably 2 months would be out. But normally from spring through fall, somebody's going to bloom for you, okay? So you don't need necessarily do a whole yard of red buds. You can do this and this and this and this and this, and you'll find that every 4 weeks there's a cycle, and then another cycle, and then another cycle. Now some are going to bloom more than once, which is a good part. Unfortunately, I wish red buds would, but it's a one-time deal. So we plan this to make this thing pop in the yard. So something's, and same thing with perennials. When you're doing perennial plants, you've got some that are going to be outstanding, but only bloom once, like Mount Laurels. But you're going to have salvias and things, but you look for, and one of my favorite perennial flowers is called a fall aster. And the reason I like fall asters is because the wife's birthday is in October, and our anniversary is in October. So that's like a big old warning flag. I think it's blooming, I better get my rear going. So that's my favorite flower. But in the meantime, we got all this whole world of stuff going. So red buds, okay, so we do not buy eastern red buds. We buy Texas red bud, Oklahoma red bud, we do white Texas red bud, then we can go into like forest pansy and another new one we're playing with. But in other words, we have to get out of as much eastern red blood as we can because it's the heat that gets us. So it's hot up in Dallas, but it's a different elevation. It's a different thing up there. So heading towards the Panhandle, they grow things differently than we do here. We're stifled hot with humidity and heat both. Red buds will sunburn. They need better soil than most. I definitely would use some of that compost we talked about in the ground. They need water, but not overwater, and they're not designed to be a big water intake plant on the road. But obviously we're in exceptional droughts, right? So whatever we read about and we talk about are normally the best of times. These are not the best of times. So we had to add more water and more water. So 2 things I want to talk about just real quick and get to all the 2 shows. So who has all seen these bags that go in the trees? Right? Throw them in the trash.
Like a watering bag.
Throw them in the trash.
So they only work when they have water in them. You're gonna walk over and get water the trees. Well, yes, they're slow leaking, but they're dead in 3 days. There's more deflated those bags in the world, and you go to all these parks, and there's hundreds of them out there. They're about $30 a piece. If the crooks do about it, they'd all be in the pawn shops overnight. So it's like, I don't get this bag. I don't get it. But anyway, if it was on a drip system, then what? With a drip system, why that bag? So anyway, if you have one, if you like it, good for you. Drip system or a simple old ring sprinkler. No mechanical parts. Turn on, make a beautiful fountain, then you have a lagoon out here. And this water, nice and gentle rain hit the ground. Soft, gentle rain. I like water when it hits and pelts the ground, because what does it do? It beads on the ground, and it's like raindrops, mimic raindrops. When droplets do like this, they're pouncing the ground and they're throwing stuff in the air. They're digging, and that's causing oxygen to get back to the ground. So when you flood water, which is okay too, but you got to remember not to always flood water. You've got to drop clean water. The ground has to absorb oxygen. The roots breathe oxygen and drink water at the same time. And too much water, they drown. Not enough water, they die of drought. So there's a loose combination. But anyway, anything that mimics a rain droplet is, I think, ideal. What did nature do all this time, right? You know, she made rain, she dropped it. So find the best way it works for you, but I like things that mimic nature.
So that's a Texas redbud?
Yes, I think so, yes.
They grow
I have to assume so.
this area?
Yes, yeah.
And what'd you say the other one, Oklahoma?
Oklahoma, yeah. We can't have 2 Texas ones, we have Oklahoma and a Texas.
Oh.
Which is the one you said not to do?
Eastern redbud. Yes. So out of the 2, the Oklahoma has a glossier leaf. I like it better than Texas because the leaf is twice as thick, and it's almost like it's got a wax job on there, so it seems to bead the heat off a little bit better than Texas does. And it's a darker flower. I think it's a full shade darker than Texas.
Okay.
All right, so everything, they're doing stuff to help with the urban tree planting conservation, forest restoration for global relief. Whatever, all this stuff is cool. And no matter where we help out, if it's here, somewhere else, the whole thing is the world needs to be forested better. And so, you know, I mean, kudos to them for doing good stuff. Okay, so ornamental trees. They are starlets for gardens. Okay, they provide shade, erosion. So what's the first thing you saw me walking today with like a hat, right? I have a desert ground up here. So when I'm outside, we need shade. Without the shade, we cook. The sun hits the ground, it supercharges, right? It heats up, you know, then you got thermodynamics coming up like this, and nothing's just hot, right? It's just still. And so when they say it's 98 degrees in the shade, that's in the shade. Outside that shade line, it's 103, or you're gonna feel like it. The radiation just cooks you to death out there, right? So when you have a shade tree, you're cooling the earth down, that keeps the evaporation down, you save water sources, your grass goes longer, you know, everybody, it's always amazing that a beam of light 3 trillion miles away, and what saves you from burning to death is a thin leaf, right? So, you know, we can think, weird how nature works, but that little thin leaf cools that temperature down by 20 degrees on the ground there. So, small trees, big trees, you know, low canopy, high canopy trees, it's building that layer system to shade down. Now, there's areas we don't want to have shade, we have perennials, but in overall around the yard, we need a thermal, or, because, you know, cool breeze come off that field of oak trees comes towards you. It's because they had a chance to cool down that low time. It cooled down that much before it hit you. All right, so every tree needs what? The right climate for the species, which we talked about, right? Redbuds, you know, that kind of thing, right one. The right soil conditions. So not every tree is going to grow in every spot. You know, not everybody can have a redbud, not everybody can have a certain kind of tree. So we have to educate ourselves, or talk to me or somebody, and Mark, can I grow this tree in this area? And I'll say, yes, you can, or you can't. We're going to be honest with you. I don't work on sales, I don't make no commission. I want you for a customer forever, which is why we're still in business. That's why Grandpa told the people, go home and dig your hole first. He was there to make sure that you're coming back to him because you respected him, and that's what we're trying to keep our generation going, respect. You know, he said a long time ago, I built this nursery for you, if you mess it up, it's your own damn fault. And he's right. All right, so proper watering, The reason that's gonna come into play, I'm sure, is that some plants need more water than others. And so we're gonna pick that out too. So if we have a spot that we can't water that often, we're gonna choose that as our species also. So it's about location and all kinds. Nutrition needs, we covered that pretty well because, right, we're gonna do Luby's or roof steakhouse feeding program. We all wanna eat, right? Everybody eats, we all wanna drink. Okay, protection from harm, I'm assuming it means from either wildlife management probably coming in there, or some bugs, problem. Pruning, okay, so shapely trees, right? Now there's the wild landscape, so the native society would probably say, it was born this way, you go this way, let's do what it's gonna do. But there's also the part where you landscape it, because you might want to put a heavenly tree or shrub down below there too, right? So it all depends how the tree grows. Right? So let's see, extra professional care, no, you can do it all right, so you don't need professional care. Tree needs to die with dignity. I'm not sure what that means, except that. Chainsaw? Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Well, so when a tree dies, so let's show this right here. So when a tree dies with dignity, this is not dignity. This is either murdered or whatever. Yeah. So this tree was planted, and this tree, so we're going to move over to the coronary stuff. We're going to look at how death goes. So if you brought this tree into me, I'm going to tell you that this tree rotted. And the reason I tell you why it rotted is because what's left is the cord roots, the big roots. You know the fine ones I'm talking about? If the tree had died from lack of water, you would have all the fine roots with it, the hair follicle type side roots, all the same. That's a murder scene of starving to death. This one was drowning, right? So this is the not. So that's how that died. Now sometimes we can have other issues that will mimic. Now this tree was a bare root tree that never caught fire. Okay? So this one didn't catch fire. It tried to. There's a few more little fine roots, so this one did not drown. And it even tried to survive a second time by doing a sucker sprout. What killed this tree is freeze death.
Is what?
Freeze death.
Freeze down.
It blew the bark. So the bark split and blew. So which means it tried to come out, had too much sap in it, and cold came in and it popped the wood and split it like a garden wood or a pipe. So when it happens, that's it. It's all gone. There's nothing you can do for it. So when you look at trees, when you're not sure a tree plant died, you pull out of the ground, you look at the root system, that's the autopsy. Okay, you put your white coat on there and you do all your stuff.
And gloves.
And gloves. Take pictures like emergency. Stakes are only good for the grower because we all want to buy a straight tree. And if you're a native person, you want to be well. But most people not buy a tree that's perfectly straight. It's going to be straight as this. You can't have a wall in it, whatever. So what this does to a tree is like this. It's like a crutch. I can't get strong, I'm using this for a crutch. When a tree is three-way guide wire and allowed to sway a little bit, it's bending muscles, it's exercise. So you get a thick trunk by a movement. But when it's thick up there rigid, it's a weak muscle. It can't build girth. So stake. So we have high wind, right? Just here, especially for guys. So you want the tree to how you don't want to do it like this, but we need some wobble a little bit. Just don't move. Don't be how much. That strengthens the tree up. So the stake's only good from that one day on, like this one had it on there too. So they want a straight tree. It's worth it after that.
That is so cool. Just yesterday, I've got this volunteer Vitex that's a couple of years old, and I've had it was like leaning over real bad, so I stuck a T-post in.
Yeah.
And kind of zip corded it on there.
Yeah.
And so yesterday, I was looking at it and said, man, let's get a little bit tight, you know.
Yeah.
It's rubbing the top of that post.
Yeah.
So I clipped it off, I put some soft wire, patted the thing. And I thought about pulling the T-post up, but as soon as I did, that old tree started leaning over. So I'm gonna go over here. You just
use this and you go back.
Thanks.
So this is green mercantile. It's built to stretch, not that kind of tie. So it's built so when you wrap a tree and tie it, if the tree grows, you're not there to catch the growth, it has an expansion ability to it. So it's not rigid, it's not like medical tape, it's not wire. So it can be on the tree and not cause a rub. So miracle tie, every nursery has this stuff, or should. And it's not like, it's like $10 a roll, but I use it for everything at the house. I tie things, my plumerias, I tie the fence. I use that. No wire chain. I don't like zip ties either, because same thing, you can do that really. So use that stuff and you're safe. And you cut it, add a new piece if you need to down the road, and you keep adding to it if you need to, but that would be your 3-way guide wire to that tree versus using wire chain, garden hoses, whatever. Just use that.
Thank you.
And I've also seen where, a T-post, like you have your tree like this, and then there's a T-post that goes this way.
Yeah.
And it's tied up to that. I thought that was the old German method.
Well, the only reason why they're bead like this is, especially on a bigger tree. A young tree, if it's say you bought a 2-inch caliber live oak, and you're in the country high winds, so they do the V so it can't pull it forward. Yeah, if it's forward, it'll go more quicker. The V is like that, so yeah, it causes more strength of the less bending. Yeah, yeah. But I do that too. I don't know if I'm German too, so.
Well, I'm not.
All right, so, okay, we got that, okay, so, invasive species, okay, so basically, anything that wasn't native here, that was brought in from another country, which is what happens, right? Do you know that hackberries were brought into the world, especially Texas? Because there were the few trees that the horses could stomp on and not kill, and so they could tie the horses on the dirt roads and instead of the rope there, and sparrows came because, they brought them in because the horses pooped too much on the road, and they were there to eat the poop. And so, you remember the fable where they had mice and they brought cats in, and dogs and whatever, and elephants. So you bring things in, and you make more messes. So, but anyway, China berries, China petunias, there's different things, that become invasive or invasive plants. It just depends on how you look at your world. If you're in a wetland area, these plants are easier to develop and clog areas up. When you're in South Texas and drier areas, normally we don't find these things being a big issue because there's no water. They have to have water to sprout. And so the more west you go, the less chance it's being,
You find these primarily on the coast, don't you?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, Nandinas,
We sell them as shrubs, so yeah.
they grow anywhere.
Yeah. But I've never, I've never seen them jump across fields and take off. They do make some seeds, I guess, and they could sprout, but I personally never seen anybody have a hedgerow that got out of control from them, because they don't do that. They clump like bamboo-ish, but they don't raise seed jump, so.
But they carry their red berries all winter long.
Yeah, yeah, and it is a food source, and so there's this tree that's on there, the sandpaper tree, which is also called an anaqua. So anaqua trees are actually quite pretty. This is a tree that grows like an evergreen tree. It can get 35 feet tall. They call it sandpaper tree because the leaves are like, I had a limb fall me one time and actually sandpapered my arm. And so it's very scratchy. It makes berries and some white flowers. It's actually a pretty cool plant. And so I'm pretty sure this is not on her list. No, it's on there. So that's a pro plant. The other one, this picture is kind of hard to see, but it makes white flowers on there, and we don't sell lots of them, and it can kind of sucker sprout, but if you like them, they're very cool. I like them too. They're cool. Okay, one of my favorites, Anaconcha orchid tree. So small tree, shrub, bush, we call it, that grows to about, I say 10 feet is kind of a rough number. It's going to vary a lot from 8 to 12 roughly. Ever blooming flower or potential. So this is one you would put in the ground. It'll probably start blooming, if not now, in 2 weeks, and you'll have sporadic flower shows throughout most of the year. It's a cold hardy orchid tree. There's a Hong Kong orchid tree that are not. They freeze down, make beautiful purple flowers, but they will freeze down and will die. This guy goes out there in the landscape and it's just a gorgeous plant. So that's your filler plant. So that you have your primary shows, and then so white is what neutral, right? So imagine if you get this going with some burgundy behind it or some blue, like Vitex trees, whatever. You get some, but so like when you have a white canvas, the colors pop on there. So you put whites in there somewhere, so the colors will bounce and pop. Cedar elm. So the coolest thing, I'm glad you said it on there. The coolest thing about this tree is that the leaves, upon impact on the ground, disintegrate. So you get out there, and I carry Eagle equipment, so the blowers. But this tree, when it falls to the ground in the grass, it disintegrates. If you walk out there under my tree section, I got cedar elms, I got this trees, and I all the time tell people, look on the ground, what do you see down here? And I see all these leaves. Yeah, you seen cedar elms? No. They paper dry up overnight. So they're in the ground, they disintegrate, and they're gone. So it's not that big old live oak thing, you know, you're blowing leaves out this way, pecan leaves and this and that, sycamores. So, and they make great nighttime lighted trees. So if you do night lighting up this way, they have a heavy, thin, multi-branching system, so it catches light all the way up. So that's why you see them a lot of times over in hotels and so forth, those big old lights going up there because they shadow very nicely in the nighttime. And there's no limb breakage hardly. They're gorgeous. They're a big tree over time. But you only want the cedar elm. Any other elm tree will catch Dutch elm disease and die. So nothing else but cedar elms. And by the way, cedar does not mean cedar. There's no cedar pollen. And we get that question a lot too.
I have a lot of cedar elms on my property, and over the last couple of years with the drought, of course, they're old, but I'm losing a lot
Are you?
with the drought.
Yeah, I know. I got a big old live oak tree, 2 of them. I got 4. 2 of them are in jeopardy of dying, and because it's been such a bad season, and they're in a higher clay spot on my soil, and I'm trying to city water what I can. They're not getting mad. I may have a water break by accident one day, but they're just, you know, they're we're hurting badly. Yeah, even native plants are in
I still
jeopardy.
have a lot, but those are, the cedar elms are the ones I'm
Yeah,
losing.
mine's hurting too. My cedar elm. Yeah, it's sad, really, you know.
Yeah.
But we all got to live through something, and we were in our time, you know. Again, I use the word old timer loosely because I'm coming to one, but it was always about the drought of the 50s, right? The 50s, and most of the gentlemen I talked to that live back that say no, it's worse now because we had the drought back then, but didn't have as much high temperature range.
Right.
So that was the kicker. So we're cooking and we're, you know, it's like a pot roast in the oven. So, oh, and by the way, that also has great fall color too. All right, cherry laurels. Cherry laurels, evergreen shrubs, not so much a tree per se, but this is all for flowers. I don't think the flowers are going to impress you a lot. I think this is more wildlife-ish thing, you know. And just one more thing to add to but it's a nice evergreen shrub. There's multiple varieties. There's tall growers that get up to 15 feet, and there's tight and bright varieties, cherry laurels that stay lower to about 8 to 10. Their only issue that I find with them is that they can, if you're in heavy clay soil, have chlorotic issues, like means iron issues. So if you have a lot of cleachy, heavy black clay soil, you might have to add some iron to them once in a while, add some salt, magnesium for green chlorophyll. But you know, so if you do mend the soil properly, so always dig a hole, same depth as a container, unless it's a special tree, we go deeper, but otherwise same depth, always minimum twice as wide. 90% of the roots taken off are going to go this direction. And if they're hitting resistance, right, they're going to hit that wall, and they're going to, I'm trying to get through, but right, it's not inviting. So out of that pot, you know, we talked, you've probably heard before about, you know, girdling the root system. Okay, so the other argument or talk about is, do you do round holes or square holes? Well, being half German, I do square holes, so we're square heads. So, but I find that no matter which hole you dig, whether it's round or square, if you take a shovel, right, and have heavy clay soil, what that shovel do? It makes a smooth wall, right? It makes a smooth wall. So when you dig the hole, remember that little cultivator like this? You scratch it up, okay? Rough that outside, and then when the roots come through, they'll wallow in that little wiggles and they right out. But give them a running chance. You make it wide enough. You know, if you take a tree home and it takes you an extra day to dig the hole properly, take the extra day. There's not a rush to go in there. I mean, Robert will say different, but take that extra day, do it right. You know, don't go, oh, forget this hole. No, you can water like I do at the nursery. So you water your tree and then plant when you need to. Just don't feel grumpy, I said that. All right, so desert willow. Man, we got color now. Desert willows bloom all summer too, and multiple colors, from white to pink to burgundy. I mean, you know, there's gorgeous colors of things. Wispy plants, and you know they're not understored. You got to be in full sun, and but I mean they bloom. They're drought tolerant. The hummingbirds like them too. They're good for dry soil, and 25 feet is probably an upper reach on that. The other trees she's talking about, so mimosa trees are good too. They seem like their cells are down on those from the old days, but mimosas also can bring hummingbirds in, beautiful flower plants there too. And you know, it gets a seasonal thing, right? It's one of those things you add to the color to the thing there. Filtered sunlight coming through, so grass can grow underneath it. It's not a heavy shade tree, just an addition to it. Then the other one she's got on there is crepe myrtle. Now, crepe myrtles, we specialize in crepe myrtle. We have the 96 varieties of crepe myrtle sometimes. So I've got some that grow like a boxwood. I can stop you from that size up to 35 feet, anywhere in between. Some of the fast growers at 35 feet will grow 6.5 feet a year. If you water and fertilize them, they will literally grow. I can get them in a 5-gallon bucket, I can get 4 foot of growth without even trying. So 6 feet is easy number to get on a pot. So if you bought a 4-foot plant, so it's, you know, so let's say you want to do some back running in the backyard, and you know you think you have to buy a $300 crepe myrtle. No, buy something a 5-gallon or 10-gallon. In 1 year you get 6 feet on top of 6 feet. That's 12 foot. Then you're 18 feet the next year. And so just water feed. And what's cool about crepe myrtles is that that's a summer bloomer. So all summer long, as long as we got moisture, they will produce flowers. So it's an ever blooming tree. And you can go big ones on top, in the middle there, whatever. But that's one more item that you have a continuation through there. So I think I love crepe myrtles. They're cool. We don't have people up north. We want to grow stuff up north that we can't, and they want to grow stuff we have down here because they can't either. So we have this from our side.
Mark, how do you prune one of those desert willows?
I don't think you need to do much at all, except maybe just thin out. Sometimes they have a little bit of loose dead wood on them, you know, just light pruning. We've got one by our gate over there by our delivery entrance, and I mean, I prune a limb because it moves under my delivery gate sometimes, but we don't touch it at all, really.
Really?
Yeah. And crepe myrtle too. Well, since you mentioned that, so you heard of the term crepe myrtle?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't like it either. I think if you want an 8-footer, you buy an 8-footer. Don't buy a 30-footer and make it 8 foot. So that's why so when you walk into my nursery and hit the crepe myrtle section, the short growers, the boxwood ones, are the very first row. As you walk down, you build height. So if you come in and tell me I want a smaller tree, I say you go far back, work towards, you know, the front a little bit. If you want short ones, you start from the front, work there. So you find the height range. You know, you go online, read about them. Look at our web page has a list of all crepe myrtles. It talks about the fall color, the height ranges, all that kind of stuff. Mildew resistance. That's the other thing on these things. But you know, yeah, don't take a big guy and knock it down, because that causes the stress in there. It's called bird nesting because it's all those made a whole bunch of limbs around that big old core, and then they get weak and they fall out. And tree gets all kinds of fungal problems. It's a nest. Yeah, just do it right first time you're done.
Is that crepe myrtle a taproot or a shallow root?
Shallow root, horizontal. Yeah.
How much water do you actually?
So the taller they grow, the more water they need. So the 35 footers, so on drought resistant wise, now I've got 3 in my house. I've got 3 of one called Tuskegee.
I got a lot, but they don't flower a lot.
The more water then, yeah. The fertilizing is part of it, right? But if you didn't do any fertilizing at all, if they're wet, they will probably promote growth and go. Now, there's 2 types. There's an indica and a flowery eye. The flowery eyes, indicas are the old ones we all had as a child, grew up with them. They're slow growers, so when you see a big giant tree, that's why they're 35, 55 years old, because it took forever, right? 1.5 a year maximum, and then they come down a little bit, you go up a little bit, come down a little bit. They just never jumped out. The flowery eyes are the mildew resistant ones. That's the ones that can do the 6 foot per year thing. But because they're growing so fast, they're also water hogs. So, like I said, I got 3 at my house. Mine have reached almost full size now. They have room to grow this way and so forth. But they got their canopies on there. I did them for natural shade. I put 3 in a triangle. So my potting bin and I put a picnic table there. I have natural shade, you know, on there. And if I eat a barbecue, I got flowers on my decoration. But they make a great canopy in there. And I'm not watering, like, I didn't water them all last year once, and they still survived. They weren't beautiful, they weren't blooming, but they were surviving. So sometimes we have to water for survival. Sometimes we water for, you know, growth, right? But where we're trying to hold our water, I need to say my water from my other world, I have to pick and choose who gets left behind a little bit. Now, if they're about to croak, then I'm going to turn the water into them. You know, and pay the bill and fine whatever else, but you know, we need to save water, which is why a lot of things on here, we're trying to do water resistant plants. At the same time, so if I kill my big trees, right, and because I didn't water, and then I wait till next year to water the tree, buy new ones in, I'm going to use more water to get the new tree started than I would have saved the old one. And that's something that's not being taught from these guys they're in charge of our water thing. Like people, I let my grass die, right? Well, okay, so next year I put all new sod in. And what did you just do then? You used up 5 times as much water, maybe 10 times as much water than you would have saved in that year. So when you're watering for survival, you water heavy and deep. I used to say, like, when you water a tree, you water until the birds land in there in the water, because that means you water deep enough that the bugs came up. So they're getting the, right, so I mean, then you know you've submerged water. And that watering will last you 2 weeks or plus, if you water properly. Yeah, but if you're out there spritzing like this, you know, then that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So water deep, and on the drip line. All right, evergreen sumac, very drought resistant. This can be overwatered very easily, so be careful with this plant. A by H, maximum size. Semi-bushy tree thing. They have a low fragrance to them, and I'm sure the birds get them too, the white flowers. But I like flame sumac better because it has a fall color, but if you want evergreen, this is the evergreen one. So it's a pretty cool plant. This one I'm not too familiar with. I don't carry them. I've seen plants in the acacia family, but I don't have this one. But it makes a little puff, I think there's actually more yellow than what it's showing there. Little puffy yellow flowers, almost like a powder puff plant. You've ever seen one of those. And bees, and so that's the other thing too. So about the bees adore, right? So you're doing fruit trees, right? You have to have bees. So you've got to plant things. So like say, well, how can I get bees to come to my fruit trees in the springtime when it's so early, right? You plant broccoli in the fall, get your harvest out, then you let them go to flowering. If you've never seen bees go crazy over broccoli, you're missing something because they love flowering broccoli. So you let those things bloom, yellow flowers, you got a flowering garden. And the bees come in. So if it's not, you got to buy a big red can, let them get to that. But yellow broccoli will draw in bees like crazy. And they're there, they go to the next restaurant, which is your tree. You know, you attract them in and they're flying around. And that's how you get them in. But you have to have enticing offers. You know, they don't have coupons to go bring the plants to do. All right, another great plant. So this is a substitute for a redbud. So the Mexican buckeyes are a little bit more shrubbier, maybe more like a desert willow look to them, sort of. They bloom the same pretty hot pink flower, burgundy, whatever you want to call it, fuchsia. They're different in the way that they grow, but I love them. They're a great plant. They make seed. You can plant more plants if you want and move them around to the yard. It's just another tool, another plant out there. But yeah, it's a great spring bloomer. I know they're blooming in Austin just 2 weeks ago pretty heavily. So you know, they're more up in Austin natively, but they can grow easily down here with no problem, and don't need all the extra problems of like the redbuds do. Okay, Mexican olive is a great tree also. Now they have been known to freeze before, so you can have a grand old tree and it's probably okay most years, but once in every 25 years, expect maybe something might happen to it. They bloom all summer long. My grandfather, of my mom's side, is buried in San Benito by Harlingen, and in that park where he's buried at, it's a cemetery of these. So every day of his life, underground, he's being rained on with flowers, 24/7, except for wintertime. So it's a very cool tree, big old white flowers. I don't really see bees so much going for it. I don't think it's a big, no, hummingbirds, yeah, but it's a very, very cool plant. Just watch the cold weather. It might, you know, just some years it may get a little bit of trouble, but it's worth having one.
Are they fragrant?
I don't think so. I never smell them. Okay, so edible plant, Mexican plum. It's not the most greatest fruit tree in the world for eating, but they're edible. And so Mexican plums, hog plums, there's lots of wild plums out there. This one just has a prettier shape, better tree growth, beautiful white flower show. I mean, it's massive white flower show. And then later on, you can make, let the seeds go out. My dad, we couldn't find the trees when we go to SeaWorld. My dad, here we are trying to go on the roller coasters. My dad's over by the restroom area where these trees were at. He's picking all the seeds off the plants, in fact, the nursery grow them. So that's a true nurseryman, right? And so anyway, so they're very cool plants and they're easy to grow, with the exception of they are a fruit tree, so they have the same subject of issues. But disease problem, not really a big issue. It's more about insect issues. But they're very pretty trees. But when spring bloom, you're done. So that's why you want to get the other stuff going too. Now, Palo Verdes. Now, so Palo Verde is a fancy ratama. So the problem with ratamas is they make yellow flowers too, but they're loaded with thorns, which I said earlier, I hate thorns because of my blood. So they're scratchy, getting your tractor tires, they're a big mess. They're gorgeous when they bloom from a field. Some of this field, I love them. But ratama makes a much prettier flower. They're also known as desert museum trees. They're more native into Arizona world. I've got one in my front yard. The nursery has one by our big dinosaur. So if you come there one day, you see the big dinosaur. There's one right there by it. They make a big yellow flower. They're gorgeous plants. It's a golden yellow flower. You can climb the tree or whatever and not get stuck by any thorns. And it has a sort of a furnish-like leaf to it, just dark green. And the variety comes because the trunk is green. It's a green trunk. So yeah, if you have the pleasure of getting one, trying to find a small one is hard. So half the time they're always expensive. But when you can find one, I think you should have one. I mean, I love mine, so it's a great tree. And the bees love it too. So. Okay, possum hall. The cool thing about possum hall over at Yaupon holly is that Yaupon hollies are evergreen, red berries. When winter comes in, the mockingbirds haven't got the fruit yet, they don't stand out as well because you have green foliage with it. So possum halls drop all the foliage. Their fruit sizes are almost 3 times bigger than a Yaupon holly. And on a glorious year, if there's an ice storm, the ice coats the leaves and highlights the berries. They're just very gorgeous. So birds like them too, but they seem like the mockingbirds like mockingbirds, when they fly goofy, it's because they got drunk on the berries. They hit Yaupon hollies, and so when you hit your window and they're acting goofy, it's like they never come home at night. So.
What was the plant you said instead of this plant, the possum?
Yaupon holly.
Yaupon.
Yeah. Sorry, my voice is trying to go crazy now. So anyway, so a great plant, not too big of a plant, sort of it's not understory, it needs to be out on its own. But I mean, look at how thing lights out there. I hope it shows a bit on the screen good. But it has lots of open berries, so in the fall through winter time, you're Christmas lit for the season.
How's edible?
Wildlife, but I mean, they are for you, but they're not. So Yaupon hollies have a Latin name called vomitus. Guess what that means? Vomiting.
I could guess.
Yeah, vomiting. So these are not in that family. I think these are actually edible, but I think there's a way to eat them. I do research for it.
There's a, I was up Martin, saw there's a bush. It looks like, it may not be as big as that, but they call it red haw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, red haw, yeah.
Is that the same thing? Or
It's different family, but yeah, similar. Yeah, those are edible too.
I know.
Yeah. But in moderation. Right, so we talked about red buds. Now this one she put in here because this is a Mexican red bud. So the Mexican red buds are not as well tree formed. They can be trees. They're smaller trees than a regular red bud. Nice flowers, they're a lot of shade, need well-drained soil, they cannot stand wet feet. And so it's a little bit smaller tree of what so if you don't want a big red bud tree, that's a good alternative for a smaller tree. But I like the bigger tree myself, but they're good too. There's nothing wrong with them. They have smaller leaves, more heat resistant. There's a lot of positives in that world. Okay, rough leaf dogwood. They make a beautiful bark, nice foliage, white flowers. Not overly glorious, but I think they have their place in landscape. But look what it says there about the butterflies and many pollinators. That's what it's. So people buy these for themselves, but they're buying them for the other reason too. So when you're buying these plants, you got to see, including like if you have animals like that Yaupon holly. If you have a dog that eats everything, you got to watch what you plant in the landscape, right? So it's all about research. Make sure the plant is not deadly to your animals. Make sure it's what you want it for. Do you want? If you're allergic to bees, do you want bees? That kind of thing. So you got to think all this world before you just go out and buy a tree. How this will affect you? What will affect out there also beyond you too?
What's a good source to use to find out what plants are toxic to what pets or animals?
A&M has a plant source. I think it's plantanswers.com. is a good place to look at stuff like that. Plus, if you don't know, you can also type in and they respond to you. There's also some Texas Handbook Natives that will also have a lot of information on there too. Sorry, I'm moving my phone to sleep again. That will give you information too. There's lots of resources. Sometimes it's in books. There we go. And sometimes it's but I found like, I think is it Sally Wasserfield? She's got a native book. It's a big, thick book, and it goes through all that stuff. And it goes through what they do, the toxicities, all that kind of stuff there. Yeah. Because in the real world, right, people come to the nursery and they say, "Where's your herb selection at?" And I want to say, it's a whole darn nursery, really. Every plant is an herb. Some will heal you, some will kill you, some will feed you. but even my mulch pile has mushrooms, So and not the ones you want to eat. So so everything out there, the bark, the leaf, the root. We had a Oreo guy come one time. He paid
bought all of my walnut trees. We cut the tops off, he wanted just the roots, because he was gonna make a cure for cancer. His father needed a cure for cancer, and he needed the roots, walnut root to cure. So every tree as an herbal selection is just what, you know, what it's for. Kennywood, yep, it's a little bit thorny, it's a beautiful plant, lots and lots of white fragrant flowers. Again, you're gonna bring in all kinds of, you know, bees and so forth, and I haven't seen a big one look quite that pretty, but that's gorgeous. I mean, you know, again, it's one more color added there, right? You're adding another landscape, another plant to it. And I think she's right, sun to part shade. I see mostly in full sun, but I think they're kind of like understory trees to the west of us, and they get behind like a mesquite tree or something like that, kind of sort of get to the east side, the west side of that tree. Mountain laurels, okay, that's the most common of all the potted plants. So mountain laurels, once a year bloom. They smell like grapes, not grapes, like purple Kool-Aid. So they have a great fragrance to them. Bee catchers also. You know, these are the plants when you were a kid, you know, that somebody take that red bead like this and hit you, burn your skin. That's that plant there. So, you know, again, they're also toxic to animals too, so be careful on that one. But they're gorgeous plants. You know, they're more bush than trees, but they can be in the trees. It's just hard to get a tree form. You just have to work on it to make a tree. All right, so Texas persimmons. I'm lucky enough that Burst planted me 2 of them, both sides of my driveway in the same darn spot opposite. So I have 2 that are going to come over and make a little canopy. These are hard to find. There's even the native growers, when you find them, they're 10 gallons for a little 4-foot tree. They should be massively produced. They're like they remind me of a aquarium myrtle, but not the giant blooms. They make a little bloom, you're not going to care about it. It makes this little persimmon fruit that is edible. I know, because I ate it, because I thought it was, as kids, we thought we were going to dip, but we didn't like dipping, so we put it in our mouth and spit dark chocolate in our mouth. So they make your teeth black too, so. but we ate, so they're definitely edible. I didn't die. But they make a beautiful whitish bark. They're handsome trees. They're just handsome trees, and I'm lucky to have 2 of them there. I couldn't find the birds to say thank you, but they deposit them somewhere. So anyways, you should have one of those too. They're cool plants. I love them.
Do they propagate well, or?
I don't think so. I think, but if you find a female, so there's males and females. If you find the female, just get the seeds collected.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying you couldn't do a cutting, but I think it'd be easier to do the seedling. Now, if you do seeds, you do this. And the reason for this is because we have found, like the movie Avatar, the bacterial world, right? So bacteria, so when you buy legumes and when you buy bacteria, you buy this bacteria, right? So bacteria stimulate growth in the soil and seed germination. So the reason why there's so many in here is because X amount do certain plants and very few just do one. There's a spectrum of these many plants in this field. So there's so many in there so that it should cover everybody. We were doing native seedlings at the nursery and getting that 60% rough count, right? By adding this to our mix and drenching the seeds, we have 92% success rate.
What is that exactly? Is that kangaroo?
Kangaroos again, yep. Again, remember I said, if you're getting it for marijuana, getting it for you.
I've got quite a few on my property already.
What's your marijuana?
Yeah. I'm gonna say that real quickly.
Or your house.
But they're good. So, okay, so Texas red oak. Now, there's all kinds of Texas red oaks. You know, we do the Shamartii because of the color. In theory, we're supposed to have Quercus texanus, but it's a small leaf, it doesn't grow very good. You'll be 100 years old before it makes a tree, so it's hard to sell that variety. And the color is awful on it. So we mostly do Shamartis. Some of the tree arborists don't like us because the nursery sells Shamartis because probably in 100 years it ain't gonna make it that well. It'll make your lifetime. It just won't make a 100-year thing. It's a little bit weaker than some varieties for long term, but if you do the Texas variety and you're in clay soil, you're gonna rot and kill them. So it's a ballpark of, you know, if it ends or buts. But anyway, so they're good. Now, you got 2 things below here, and I'm surprised these are there because, so I love Chinese pistache. The tallow tree is not my favorite, but for fall color, you cannot beat tallow tree for fall color. I think they should still be sold, but those are actually on the invasive list. So that's why I'm a little bit worried. But they're also talking about Chinese pistache tree being on that same list too. But let me tell you about Chinese pistache tree. I'm going to stand up for this one. So, in the city of St. Henry, I have them put in a bunch of trees. They have a park right now. And they outlined the whole park. We did
X amount of trees, the numbers of 3s and 5s of everything out there. I'm telling you, all one thing, we're gonna mix this whole board up there, and we're gonna include the Chinese pistache trees here, but don't water them that much. Well, they thought flooding makes things real faster. So they killed all 3 of them. And so I said, okay, we're gonna do it over again. And the truck came in, I'm buying one too. And then when I went out there, we planted in the ground. I planted them this high above grade level. But when I leveled it off, on the outside was a big, thick, tall dam on a berm, right? Around the whole thing. So it was holding water so it wouldn't just flood off. And over time, it would make one big wide, like a pitcher's mound sort of look to it, right? So I did that to there. And then I said, I'm gonna do one better for you. And I'm gonna buy my tree right to the house. This was 2 years ago. I watered it one time, not one since then, it's still alive today. So it was 0 water from day one. Now, I'm not saying it didn't rain once in a blue moon, that may have, pushed along to the next survival line. But I did not lose a tree from drought. So this tree, the Chinese pistache tree, which is kind of getting a bad rep, I think, because they can drop seed and they can get on some fence lines. But I've never seen a 4th of them. I've never seen this, but they can do stuff. There's a Heath Davy variety that is seedless, but it's hard. Nobody has it. I got one tree in the property that I got planted, so I might learn how to graft it myself one day when I really get into this stuff. We'll have a mother tree that we'll be able to get budded off and make our own, but that's a longer term process. That might be more accepted into the world. But it does make little red berries. They drop to the ground. 80% of them are sterile. The other 20% could go out in our spot. But if we're so my argument on this is, if we're in such bad shape and we need shade trees and they sort of knock and trash some of the better trees for if we're saving the water, we need something that need a lot of water. Right? So we need to cover up the world in the first 30 years, not worry about the next 100 years. So 30 years from now, we'll have covered up the property and put more shade trees out there with less water. Then we can also at the same time plant native trees that will become big in 30 to 50 years to add on. So the Chinese pistache tree, the nursery, is right about 60, I'm gonna say 60 years old. Massive trunk like this, no limb droppage, leaves again disintegrate pretty fast, not as fast as the cedar elm. But you see the tree out there, right where the redbuds are at, and it's a gorgeous tree, and nobody waters it. I mean, it's just there. Doesn't cause foundation problem, doesn't have roots on the surface, which is another argument about ash trees, because people say, I hate it because they have roots on the surface. Well, that's because you didn't water it. When you water on top of the grass, if I was looking for food, where would I go? I'm going to the top. You didn't water me down deep, so they didn't do the flood water. So people put ash trees in way back in the 40s and 50s, right? Then they water the grass, water the grass, water the grass. Back then, it was all about green grass yards. And they water this far, when the roots come right up the top. And then when they expand the muscle, right, then that's root on top of the ground. So if they watered deep in the beginning, they wouldn't have the roots on top. So anyway, so I'm a very good proponent of Chinese ash tree, Chinese tallow, pistache. And so, yeah, I will go for you to buy one. And I'm putting more on my property right now because I can't water back in the property. And again, my water's got to go for my other world. So I'm putting other trees out there too. I'm diversifying more of my acreage, but I'm heavily on those right now for what their needs are. Western soapberry, very small tree, white flowers, golden fruits that sort of make actually soap kind of a byproduct. So it is kind of cool plant to have. I don't know if it's a gorgeous tree, but I think it's cool. We had one for years, and I still got some wild ones going out there on the property. All right, so there's the Wilpon holly. So that's the one. Again, I love Wilpon hollies. Just watch where you go plant it. It's you expect to have mockingbird visit you in the fall, male and female. So when you buy them, make sure you're buying the female variety, unless you want the male, because they're hard to find. But that's what you want. You want that's something that makes nice berry fruits, and there it is. All right, so we're not that. So 2 things, probably 3 or 4, and then I'm gonna quit. I talk about tools a lot. Tools are going to help you or kill you. So you buy a cheap tool and it's not built to be sharp, you exert 5 times more pressure, which means you're going to fall over the tool and kill yourself. So buy sharp tools, I think sharp tools are all going to hurt you too, but our sharp tool requires less effort to work with. So good saw blade tools, good brands, Fiskars, Corona, Grapple Group of Corona brand, this has been on the market for probably 75 years, I know, or longer. They've been on the market. I personally like Philco's. This has been with me since it's been 30-some years. It looks ugly, it's beat up, like me, but it's still working. And this is Philco. This is the number 2. You're gonna have a safety on there. I think my safety off, but I go past it off. So, get your little holster. Let me, I got my little pistol inside. But you do it, yeah, I do. So, but this tool is meant to not kill me because I'm gonna cut wood to a certain size and not exert so hard. It's got a wire cutter built into it. It's not a cost, it's $70 versus $29, but there's a reason why. This is Swiss made. You know, I can't say more than that. That's true Swiss, and that's what. But it's there for built quality. And again, I use it. I should use it for a hammer. I have, but it's good. So you buy good tools. You know, you buy them once and that's it, unless you lose them.
How do you spell that? Did you say Philco?
Philco, yeah, F-E-L-C-O, number 2.
F-E-L-C-O.
You sharpen them?
Yes, you can. Yeah. So they're not quite as sharp as another brand I know of. But the other brand dulls out fast. This one, it'll hold the sharpness longer. I can cut 3 times farther before I sharpen again. So that's why it's better. Do you need a pH test? Probably not. We're all alkaline, unless you're in sand. So don't worry about pH. Everyone go ahead and have their stuff tested for pH. What's my alkalinity? Blah, blah, blah. You're alkaline. If you're not, water will aquifer, and it's alkaline too. So calcification. That's why your water heater gets all messed up. You're always going to be alkaline. So always use fertilizers. So how you find alkalinity? When you first plant, it's compost, because that's what acidity is. Compost up north. Lots and lots of fiber compost. Then, if you want to collect rainwater, which is what I'm doing now, use rainwater on certain plants. And you can use other things to help with some pH, like sulfur, but I hate using sulfur because what we're going to do again, we're going to kill all the wildlife out. So anyway, you're going to be, you're going to be pH sad all the time. Hose sprayers. There's hose sprayers that go out and shoot off like a shotgun effect and knock all your flowers off your plant. These guys made a sprayer, and it's going to always have this weird design on there. This one comes out as a fine, not a fine mist, but the droplets are way, way smaller and not as forceful. So I can spray here rose bush, I can spray my rose bushes and knock all the petals off. And it puts a nice, so it covers better too. Because think about it, when you're spraying a plant, especially if it's got a waxy leaf on it, and a big old drop hitting that leaf, what's it going to do? It's going to fling. It's hard to make a cover a leaf when it's a big droplet. Like I mentioned about the whiteflies, it's about micro droplets. So the smaller droplet, the better things on the plant, the better coverage you have. Whether it's fungal issues, bug issues, the plant that's covered properly, it's ensured that it's protected. But if your head dent is drawn off there, then it didn't no good at all in the first place. And then, okay, so one more thing here, and I think I'm definitely covered up with that. Okay, so this is another one, that's another bacteria from this company, but this one also is a bacteria that helps with the fungal problems, but it also helps with the immunity of the tree, so it's a body build at the same time. So this one is another tool used for your spraying for your fungus problems, but it's going to help revitalize the tree, make it stronger. And again, it goes back to being, again, like when COVID came around, or the flu comes around, whatever comes around, right? If you're weak, like for instance, so let's say, I'm not saying you're anemic, but let's say the thing that hit you in the eye, if it infected you but not me, then probably there's something right in your body you don't want to fight well. So if I get something, it's opposite, then say, wait, so when your body is strong, you're full of vitamins, you're full of this, and your own immune system is popping like crazy, then you fight things better. But once we get weakened, do it to a diet, poor eating, McDonald's, whatever, right? And so we weaken ourselves. Well, we would run down, I feel tired and run down. Well, then that comes to the plant too. The plant is weakened, so the first disease comes around. So like when they're trying to fight like oak disease, okay, there's not a great cure, and the one that they're trying to make great cures are very, very, very expensive per tree. But they were putting down whole ground cornmeal, so it's a fungal mat issue. So they're trying to add things to stop this thing from moving across there. And so, it goes back to bodybuilding. So where this all started out in the hill country, it's arguing how it started, but one thing that might be adding to it is the goats have cleared all the land out. So are we knocking out stuff that was helping plants in the past, And of course, new homes, right? We're clearing land, we're clearing land. There's a reason why there was a small bush by that tree, or this and that. So things are changing. You know, when you mess with change, then you expect, you mess the pot. So, but it all comes back to, on all these fruit trees and all these shade trees, I don't care what you plant, it's got to be nurtured properly. Just like taking a puppy home from the pet store. You took home a live, breathing product, and it needs to be fed and nurtured and watered. And once you've done that, it's good. All right, I think Mike talked over any questions. Anybody?